Have you ever paused even for a moment and wondered what truly makes life meaningful? What separates those who live with quiet confidence, peace, and clarity from those who constantly feel overwhelmed, stressed, or stuck in endless cycles of dissatisfaction? Imagine waking up each morning not with a sense of dread or anxiety, but with genuine excitement for the day ahead. It might sound idealistic, maybe even unrealistic, but is it really, or have we just lost touch with a few simple, yet profound principles that our ancestors once understood deeply? Thousands of years ago, philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus faced lives filled with uncertainty, hardship, and constant challenges. Yet, instead of being paralyzed by their difficulties, they flourished, finding purpose, strength, and inner peace, even amidst chaos. How did they do it? What was their secret? Today we are going to explore something timeless. 12 simple, practical Stoic habits that have the power to significantly improve your life. Starting right now. This isn't about lofty theory or abstract philosophy. It's about small, intentional practices that anyone can apply to their daily routines. Each one is grounded in the wisdom of thinkers who faced life's harshest realities and emerged stronger, wiser, and more fulfilled. But as we journey together, keep this one question in mind. What if the key to a happier, more meaningful life isn't in the big dramatic gestures we chase after, but in quiet, consistent habits that guide our thoughts and actions each day? Let's find out together. 1. Daily journaling, a dialogue with yourself. Have you ever felt like your mind is running in circles, replaying the same worries or thoughts without resolution? Perhaps you've experienced that nagging feeling of mental clutter, like having too many tabs open on your computer. What if there were a simple, ancient practice to help quiet this noise, one accessible to anyone at any time? That practice is journaling. Now, when I say journaling, I don't mean recording every mundane detail of your day or trying to sound poetic. Instead, I mean having a genuine, honest dialogue with yourself. A chance to step back and examine your thoughts from a calmer perspective. This isn't something new. It's a timeless habit practiced by some of the greatest thinkers throughout history. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, famously kept a journal we now call Meditations. What's remarkable about these writings is that Marcus never intended them for publication. They were private reflections, reminders to himself of how he wanted to live. He wrote about patience, gratitude, and virtue, often early in the morning or late at night, reflecting quietly away from the demands of his empire. If the world's most powerful leader found value and clarity in journaling, perhaps we might benefit from the same practice in our own lives. Think of journaling as cleaning the windshield of your car. Throughout our days, we accumulate stress, confusion, and emotional buildup that clouds our perspective. Writing down our thoughts and feelings is like gently wiping away the fog, allowing us to see clearly again, revealing paths and solutions that were previously hidden. Science supports this. Ancient wisdom studies show that expressive writing, the simple act of writing down our thoughts without judgment, significantly reduces stress and anxiety, improves mood, and even boosts immune function. Yet the beauty of journaling lies beyond science. It's a powerful tool for self-awareness, emotional clarity, and intentional living. Journaling doesn't require hours of your day. It can be a simple 5-minute habit. Each morning or evening, ask yourself, how am I really feeling today? What am I worried about? What am I grateful for? The key is honesty and consistency. You don't need elegant language or profound insights, just authenticity. Imagine yourself several months down the line, flipping back through your journal entries. You might notice patterns of behavior or recurring worries that seemed overwhelming at the time, yet now seem minor or manageable. This reflective practice fosters growth, resilience, and deeper self-understanding. Over time, you'll begin to see clearly the person you are becoming and the person you want to be. And perhaps most importantly, journaling strengthens your connection to yourself. In a busy, noisy world, this private dialogue gives you space to breathe, to slow down, and to check in with your inner life. It's an invaluable habit, quiet but profound, that lays the foundation for greater clarity and peace in your daily life. And speaking of clarity, there's another simple habit. The Stoics relied upon a habit we often underestimate, yet one that's remarkably powerful in freeing our minds and sparking creativity. Let's explore the transformative power of something as basic as going for a walk. 2. Walking to free the mind. Have you ever found yourself stuck on a difficult problem only to suddenly discover the answer while taking a casual walk? It's fascinating how something as ordinary as walking can have such extraordinary effects on our minds. This simple act of placing one foot in front of the other seems to unlock doors we didn't even realize were closed. Great thinkers throughout history have recognized this power. Friedrich Nietzsche once remarked, "All truly great thoughts are conceived by walking." Likewise, Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, valued walking deeply, believing it to be an essential daily practice that clears the mind and calms the soul. But why does walking work so effectively? One reason is that it gently distracts us from fixating on problems. When we are stuck at a desk, our minds can feel trapped and constricted. But once we step away and start walking, we allow thoughts to flow naturally. The repetitive rhythmic motion creates a kind of internal space, a quiet environment where our subconscious can freely connect ideas. There's science behind this ancient wisdom as well. Research shows that walking not only reduces stress and anxiety, but it also significantly enhances creativity and problem-solving skills. Even a short walk around your neighborhood or through a park can refresh your perspective, providing clarity and insight. Imagine a typical scenario. You are working on a project and suddenly you hit a wall. You can't figure out how to proceed. Instead of forcing yourself to push harder, you decide to take a brief walk outside. As your steps gently carry you forward, your breathing slows down, your muscles relax, and your mind starts wandering. Without even realizing it, you've given yourself permission to see things differently. Before you know it, the solution emerges effortlessly, almost as if it had been waiting for you to take this quiet moment. Walking from a Stoic perspective emphasizes simplicity and presence, two critical components of their philosophy. The Stoics believed in finding peace by reconnecting with the present moment, letting go of distractions and recognizing clearly what's within our control. By walking, we embody these Stoic principles. We slow down, pay attention to the here and now, and regain clarity. In today's busy screen-filled lives, walking can feel revolutionary. It requires no technology, no special equipment, just a commitment to step away from constant demands. Yet the rewards are profound: greater mental clarity, reduced anxiety, and deeper inner peace. Tomorrow, when stress or confusion hits, remember how Seneca or Nietzsche might have handled it. Stand up, step away from your work, and go for a short walk. Observe how your thoughts shift, your perspective clears, and your energy returns. And speaking of gentle daily habits, there's another Stoic practice that emphasizes the power of small, consistent actions over time. Why is it that lasting success often comes not from dramatic efforts, but from quiet, steady progress each day? Let's explore that idea. Next, 3 small daily progress, the Stoic secret to mastery. Have you ever wondered why so many ambitious goals or bold resolutions seem to fall apart after a few weeks? It's tempting to believe that achieving something significant requires massive dramatic effort, but the reality often tells a different story. True mastery rarely comes from big leaps. It's almost always the result of small, consistent steps taken each and every day. The Stoics understood this profoundly. They recognized that sustained progress doesn't come from occasional bursts of intensity, but from regular, modest efforts repeated over time. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, famously stated, "Progress is not achieved by luck or accident, but by working on yourself daily." In other words, meaningful change is the accumulation of quiet, persistent actions, each one. Building upon the last, consider the real-world example of learning a musical instrument. At first, the idea of mastering the piano or guitar might seem daunting. The complexity feels overwhelming. Notes, chords, scales, rhythm, but those who succeed rarely practice for hours on end from the start. Instead, they commit to brief, consistent daily practice, 10 or 20 minutes a day, over weeks and months. These modest sessions build extraordinary competence. The secret isn't intensity, it's consistency. This same principle applies to nearly every meaningful area of life: fitness, personal growth, professional skills, or emotional resilience. It's the reason why daily routines, even small ones, carry immense power. They shape us gradually, almost invisibly, into the person we want to become. 1% better each day doesn't seem like much today or tomorrow, but imagine the impact after a year. That's true mastery. Incremental improvements compounded over time. There's something deeply reassuring and empowering about this approach. It tells us we don't need to be extraordinary overnight. We simply need to be committed today and then again tomorrow. Rather than feeling overwhelmed by distant goals, we can shift our attention to the present moment, focusing on what's within our immediate control. The Stoics would describe this as living with deliberate intention, choosing each day how we wish to act, think, and improve. Marcus Aurelius wrote daily reminders in his journals about the virtues he wished to practice: patience, courage, justice, and wisdom. These gentle, repeated reminders guided his daily actions. He didn't expect perfection. Overnight, only continuous progress. Think about your own life. Maybe you've tried building healthier habits, becoming more patient, or acquiring new skills. The times you succeeded most likely weren't when you relied on intense, short-lived motivation, but rather when you made small, consistent choices day after day. Those quiet moments, reading one chapter, exercising for a short session, or practicing a skill briefly, are the foundation of lasting success. This Stoic approach frees us from the anxiety of immediate results. We understand that real growth is slow and steady. Instead of seeking instant gratification, we embrace patience and consistency. We learn to trust the process, knowing that each tiny effort contributes meaningfully to the larger goal. So the next time you face a daunting ambition, remember Epictetus' wisdom. Resist the temptation to take shortcuts or rush the journey. Instead, identify one small step you can take today and then again tomorrow. Soon enough, these modest actions build momentum, transforming you quietly but surely into someone you deeply admire. Speaking of virtues we admire, another key practice among the Stoics involves shifting our attention outward. Rather than focusing solely on self-improvement, how can we positively impact the lives of others through acts of justice and service? Let's explore this next principle together. 4. Practicing justice, doing good beyond yourself. Have you ever paused to consider the role justice plays in your daily life? At first glance, justice might seem like a lofty, abstract concept, something reserved for philosophers, courts, or grand debates. But the Stoics believed justice was a deeply practical virtue, something we could and should practice every day in ordinary moments, through ordinary actions. Marcus Aurelius, despite his immense power as emperor, often wrote about justice in his journals, reminding himself that his purpose was not merely to rule, but to serve others to him. Justice wasn't about punishment or law enforcement. It was about living fairly, kindly, and generously, always seeking the common good rather than selfish gain. Practicing justice in the Stoic sense means stepping outside of ourselves to recognize that we're part of something larger, a community, a society, even humanity as a whole. This perspective shifts our daily interactions. Instead of approaching life as a competition to be won, we start seeing it as a cooperative effort to lift one another up. Consider the simple act of helping someone at work who's struggling, or taking the time to truly listen to a friend. These small acts embody justice. They're reminders that we are not isolated beings, but deeply interconnected. Stoicism urges us to remember this connection, to live in a way that benefits others just as much as ourselves. Imagine the feeling you get after doing something kind or fair, especially when no one is watching. It's a quiet, profound satisfaction, very different from the fleeting joy of personal achievement or material success. This internal reward comes from aligning our actions with our highest principles, doing what's right simply because it's right, not because it's easy or immediately beneficial. Justice, according to the Stoics, requires courage and intentionality. It asks us to consider not just our own interests, but the welfare of those around us, even those we may disagree with or find challenging. Practicing justice in daily life might mean forgiving someone who's wronged you. advocating for someone who can't advocate for themselves, or treating everyone from powerful leaders to the person who serves your coffee with equal respect. Think about the individuals in history we admire most deeply. Often they're those who dedicated their lives to serving others, promoting fairness and kindness, and standing up against injustice even at personal cost. Yet we don't need grand gestures or historical feats to practice justice. Small daily acts of fairness and compassion have immense impact, rippling outward and positively affecting countless lives. What's fascinating about Stoicism is how clearly it recognizes our shared humanity. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each day that we're all bound together by common struggles, dreams, and desires. When we practice justice, we honor this connection, contributing to the betterment of our community and ourselves simultaneously. So how can we cultivate justice practically starting today? Begin by consciously choosing kindness in simple interactions. Take a moment to consider how your words or actions might affect others. Choose patience over frustration. Offer help when you see a need. Over time, these daily choices build a profound habit of justice, shaping your character in subtle yet powerful ways. Ultimately, practicing justice not only enriches our relationships and communities, it deepens our sense of purpose and fulfillment. It grounds us in values that transcend personal gain, offering a lasting, meaningful source of satisfaction. And speaking of personal growth through challenges, how can intentionally pushing our limits, both mentally and physically, build the resilience and inner strength so valued by the Stoics? Let's explore that important idea. Next, 5. Pushing past mental and physical limits. Have you ever noticed how your mind often gives up long before your body does? Perhaps you've experienced moments while exercising, working, or studying, when a quiet voice inside whispers you can't keep going yet. When you push past this initial resistance, you often surprise yourself by discovering you had more strength and endurance than you imagined. This experience of pushing beyond perceived limits is central to Stoicism and to building true resilience. The Stoics understood deeply that mental toughness and emotional resilience don't come naturally, they're cultivated through consistent, intentional practice. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most revered teachers, emphasized training the mind, much like athletes train their bodies. He believed that by deliberately exposing ourselves to manageable discomfort, we build a powerful inner reserve of strength and calm. Consider how athletes prepare for a competition. Their physical training is certainly challenging, but equally important is their mental conditioning, the ability to keep going, even when the mind begs to stop. Endurance runners, for instance, speak about a mental wall that appears midway through a race. Their true achievement isn't simply physical stamina. It's their ability to break through that wall mentally. Continuing despite internal resistance, Stoicism encourages us to adopt a similar practice in daily life by intentionally placing ourselves in mildly uncomfortable situations, perhaps waking up slightly earlier than usual, taking a cold shower, or extending our workout. We teach our minds that discomfort isn't something to be feared or avoided. Instead, we learn that discomfort is often temporary, manageable, and even rewarding. This idea of deliberate discomfort was widely practiced by Stoics, who regularly sought small voluntary hardships to prepare themselves for life's larger, unavoidable ones. Seneca recommended occasionally fasting or wearing simpler clothing, not as punishment, but as training to strengthen our minds against future challenges and to appreciate more deeply what we have. Think about a modern example. Maybe you've tried learning a challenging skill, improving your physical health, or working towards an important goal. Initially, motivation might be high, but inevitably you reach a point where it feels too difficult or uncomfortable. The Stoics remind us that this point of resistance is exactly where real growth occurs. By gently pushing beyond it, we prove to ourselves that we're stronger, more resilient, and more capable than we originally believed. But here's an important distinction. Stoicism isn't about reckless suffering or meaningless sacrifice. It's about thoughtfully choosing challenges that stretch us just enough, building resilience gradually over time. By regularly facing and overcoming mild discomforts, we build confidence in our ability to handle life's larger obstacles. The rewards of this Stoic practice extend far beyond simple endurance. Over time, we become less reactive to life's stresses, more patient with ourselves and others, and better equipped to navigate uncertainty. Each small victory against discomfort strengthens our mental fortitude, preparing us to handle future difficulties with grace and composure. So consider experimenting with voluntary discomfort this week. Maybe take a shorter, colder shower than usual. Push yourself slightly harder during exercise, or resist an impulse to complain. When faced with minor inconvenience, notice how you feel afterward. Often it's a surprising blend of pride, confidence, and calm. You've quietly shown yourself that discomfort isn't something to fear. It's simply another stepping stone toward becoming your strongest self. Speaking of strength, there's another powerful practice. The Stoics embrace to ground themselves in gratitude and urgency and awareness of life's brevity. How might regularly remembering our mortality change the way we live each day? Let's explore that important idea. Next 6. Living with Memento Mori, remembering life is short. Have you ever paused to consider how your life might change if you truly recognize the limited time you have? It sounds uncomfortable, even unsettling, to think regularly about our mortality. Yet paradoxically, embracing this simple truth that life is short and uncertain can profoundly deepen our appreciation, clarity, and sense of urgency. The Stoics captured this idea in a powerful phrase, Memento Mori, Latin for remember, you must die. Far from being morbid or pessimistic, this practice was a vivid reminder to live fully, thoughtfully, and without wasting precious moments. Marcus Aurelius, even as an emperor, regularly reminded himself that his time was fleeting. He believed acknowledging death wasn't frightening. Rather, it was deeply liberating, guiding him toward better decisions, kinder actions, and a richer life. When we consciously acknowledge the brevity of life, trivial worries and petty grievances naturally lose their power. Small frustrations, the daily annoyances at work, the disagreements with loved ones begin to feel less significant. Instead, our focus shifts toward what truly matters: meaningful relationships, personal growth, and purposeful living. Think about times in your life when you've experienced a profound loss or sudden reminder of mortality, perhaps the passing of someone close or unexpected news of illness. Often these difficult moments provide clarity. They urge us to reconsider how we are living, prompting questions like, am I making the most of my time? Am I spending my days on things that truly matter? Practicing Memento Mori doesn't require constant dwelling on death. It simply invites periodic reflection. Some Stoics would keep visual reminders such as skulls or hourglasses on their desks or in their homes. These objects weren't intended to be gloomy. Rather, they were quiet nudges to remain present and grateful, to let go of unnecessary attachments, and to approach life with greater intentionality. Modern life encourages us to live as though we have endless time, constantly postponing happiness or meaning for some distant future. We tell ourselves, I'll spend more time with family later, or I'll pursue my dreams someday. But the Stoics gently remind us that the future isn't guaranteed. This recognition isn't depressing, it's empowering. It urges us to act now, to live deliberately today, rather than deferring life indefinitely. Imagine how differently you'd approach daily interactions if you truly remembered life's impermanence. Perhaps you'd be quicker to forgive a friend, slower to anger, or more courageous in pursuing what deeply matters to you. You might assess simple pleasures like time with loved ones, quiet mornings, or beautiful moments in nature with renewed appreciation. This practice also equips us to handle life's inevitable difficulties with greater resilience. By accepting mortality as part of life's natural cycle, we reduce our fear of uncertainty and loss. We become less attached to outcomes and more attuned to the present moment, fully experiencing each day with open-hearted gratitude. So perhaps tonight or tomorrow morning, take a brief moment to reflect on the gift of being alive, recognizing its impermanence. Consider how this simple awareness might shape your actions and decisions moving forward, rather than frightening us. Remembering our mortality can be a profound source of inspiration, clarity, and genuine joy. Speaking of clarity, the Stoics also deeply valued the power of continuous learning, specifically through reading and thoughtful reflection. How can consistently seeking wisdom through reading and study enrich our inner lives and guide us toward greater fulfillment? Let's explore this idea next. 7. The power of reading and continuous learning. Have you ever noticed how reading a powerful book can profoundly shift your perspective? Perhaps you've had the experience of losing yourself in a story or absorbing the insights of a great thinker only to emerge, feeling transformed, seeing the world in an entirely new way. This remarkable power of reading isn't just entertainment. It's a core Stoic practice for personal growth, wisdom, and fulfillment. The Stoics deeply valued the act of continuous learning. They believed true wisdom came not only from personal experience, but also from actively seeking knowledge, especially through reading the thoughts and experiences of others. Marcus Aurelius himself, despite his immense responsibilities as emperor, regularly set aside time to read and reflect, understanding that his own wisdom was greatly enhanced by engaging with the insights of other great thinkers. In today's fast-paced world, reading can feel like a luxury. We are inundated with short-form content, quick news snippets, social media posts, endless streams of information. Yet the Stoics remind us that real learning requires intentionality and depth. True wisdom is rarely found in headlines or sound bites. It's discovered by stepping away from constant distraction, opening a book, and allowing yourself the space to explore ideas deeply. Consider the difference between consuming bite-sized information and thoughtfully engaging with a book. Quick, fragmented content can inform us, but deep reading transforms us. When we immerse ourselves in thoughtful literature, whether philosophy, history, biography, or literature, we gain not just information, but context, insight, and lasting understanding. The Stoics encouraged reading as a daily practice. Seneca famously advised his students to read, not broadly but deeply, choosing carefully what they read and revisiting valuable texts repeatedly. The goal wasn't to accumulate information, but to internalize wisdom, shaping character and guiding action. Think about moments when you've encountered an idea in a book that profoundly resonated with you, perhaps a passage about resilience, compassion, or courage. Maybe that idea subtly influenced your decisions, interactions, or even your worldview. Such powerful insights rarely come from superficial engagement. They arise when we slow down, allowing ourselves time and quiet space to absorb, reflect, and integrate ideas into our lives. Moreover, reading broadens our perspective beyond our own limited experiences. It offers us the opportunity to learn from history's greatest minds, to understand different viewpoints, and to build empathy for experiences we might never have directly in this way. Reading doesn't just educate us, it enriches our humanity, expands our compassion, and deepens our appreciation for the complexity of life. Practically speaking, building a habit of continuous learning through reading doesn't need to feel overwhelming. You don't need hours of free time. Just a few quiet minutes each day dedicated to thoughtful reading can be transformative. Imagine starting your day with 10 minutes of reflection from Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, or a modern author whose ideas inspire you. Over weeks and months, these small moments accumulate, building profound intellectual and emotional depth. In essence, reading thoughtfully aligns perfectly with Stoicism's emphasis on intentional living. It grounds us in a mindset of curiosity, humility, and openness, qualities central to lifelong growth and fulfillment. So maybe tomorrow morning, instead of immediately reaching for your phone or checking the news, consider picking up a meaningful book. Engage deliberately, read slowly, and reflect deeply. Notice how even brief, consistent reading can subtly reshape your thinking, improve your clarity, and elevate your daily life. Speaking of applying wisdom in daily life, the Stoics also emphasized philosophy as more than just theory to them. Philosophy wasn't meant simply to be studied. It was meant to be lived actively each day. How might adopting this practical approach to philosophy enrich our everyday experiences? Let's explore this essential Stoic practice. Next, 8. Philosophy as a daily practice, not just theory. Have you ever thought of philosophy as something distant, abstract, and perhaps even a bit irrelevant to daily life? For many people, philosophy conjures images of ancient scholars debating obscure ideas. In marble halls disconnected from everyday concerns, But for the Stoics, philosophy was never about abstract debates or intellectual exercises. Instead, it was deeply practical, a toolkit for navigating life's challenges, making wiser decisions, and living more fully every single day. Epictetus famously said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." This simple phrase encapsulates the Stoic belief that philosophy should never remain purely theoretical. It's meant to be lived, expressed through daily actions, thoughts, and responses to life's challenges. True philosophy, according to the Stoics, isn't something you merely study, it's something you become. Marcus Aurelius is perhaps the best example of this approach. His writings, now collected as meditations, weren't academic essays or philosophical lectures. They were deeply personal notes to himself, written amidst the stresses and challenges of leading an empire. Every insight, reflection, or piece of advice he wrote was intended to help him live better. More virtuously and more intentionally, philosophy was his daily compass, guiding his actions and shaping his character. This practical orientation is exactly why Stoicism remains so relevant today in a world filled with uncertainty, stress, and constant demands. Philosophy can provide clarity and stability. When we encounter challenges, whether in relationships, work, health, or emotional struggles, the Stoics encourage us to apply philosophical insights, immediately guiding our responses and grounding us in calm resilience. Imagine facing a stressful situation at work. Perhaps you are dealing with criticism, a difficult colleague, or unexpected changes. A purely theoretical understanding of philosophy won't help much here, but applying a practical Stoic principle like focusing only on what's within your control or choosing your response thoughtfully, rather than reacting emotionally, can dramatically improve the situation and your inner experience of it. Practical philosophy also deeply influences our daily choices, both big and small. It asks us regularly, is this action aligned with my highest values? Am I responding with integrity, patience, and courage? Through consistent practice, these daily reflections become habits. Over time, our behavior shifts naturally toward greater self-awareness, compassion, and wisdom. The beauty of Stoicism's practical approach is its simplicity and accessibility. You don't need to study dense philosophical texts or memorize abstract theories. Instead, you simply remind yourself of key Stoic ideas like living intentionally, accepting uncertainty, and choosing virtue in small daily decisions. Philosophy thus becomes embedded in your daily routine, subtly shaping your actions, reactions, and overall well-being. Think about your morning routine. Perhaps you might incorporate a brief reflection from Marcus Aurelius or Seneca during the day when challenges inevitably arise. Pause briefly and ask yourself how a Stoic might respond. And in the evening, reflect gently. Did my actions today align with the values I cherish? These simple practices weave philosophy seamlessly into your daily life, making it immediately practical and deeply meaningful. Ultimately, the Stoics remind us that philosophy isn't a theoretical exercise meant only for scholars or intellectuals. It's a practical roadmap for anyone who seeks to live wisely and intentionally in a complex world. By adopting philosophy as a daily practice, we equip ourselves with essential tools for resilience, clarity, and fulfillment. And speaking of resilience, the Stoics had another powerful practice to strengthen their mental and emotional toughness, intentionally exposing themselves to manageable discomfort. How can voluntarily embracing discomfort prepare us to handle life's inevitable challenges more gracefully? Let's explore this intriguing practice. Next 9. Voluntary discomfort, training yourself for hardship. Have you ever wondered why we tend to avoid discomfort at almost any cost? Our natural instinct often pushes us toward comfort and convenience. We prefer warmth to cold, fullness to hunger, ease to difficulty. But what if occasionally leaning into discomfort wasn't something to fear or avoid, but rather something to embrace intentionally? The Stoics advocated exactly that. They practiced something known as voluntary discomfort, intentionally exposing themselves to manageable hardships to build resilience, strength, and inner calm. Seneca frequently encouraged activities like fasting, taking cold baths, or sleeping on a hard surface, not as punishment, but as preparation. He believed that experiencing discomfort by choice helped people realize just how strong they truly were. making life's inevitable challenges far easier to handle. Imagine this scenario: you take a brief cold shower in the morning. Initially, the discomfort might feel shocking and unpleasant, but after a moment, you notice your breathing steadying and your mind calming by intentionally stepping into discomfort. You've proven to yourself that temporary hardship isn't something to fear. You've strengthened your capacity to remain calm under stress, building resilience with each deliberate choice. In our modern lives, comfort and convenience are abundant. We're constantly encouraged to seek pleasure and avoid any kind of discomfort. Yet paradoxically, this makes us fragile, vulnerable to life's inevitable setbacks or surprises. When we are used to constant comfort, even small difficulties feel overwhelming. The Stoics recognized this risk thousands of years ago. They understood that deliberately embracing minor discomforts now can profoundly strengthen our emotional and mental toughness over time. Think about athletes training for competition. They don't achieve success by staying comfortable. They regularly push themselves through challenging workouts and difficult practices. This intentional exposure to physical and mental discomfort builds resilience, allowing them to perform calmly and confidently when it matters most. Similarly, practicing voluntary discomfort in daily life doesn't mean subjecting ourselves to extreme pain or hardship. It simply means occasionally choosing minor inconveniences to expand our mental boundaries. This could be as simple as skipping a meal once in a while, wearing lighter clothing in cold weather, or walking instead of driving. Each small experience of voluntary discomfort quietly reminds us that we are stronger and more adaptable than we might initially believe. There's also a deeper psychological benefit when we experience mild discomfort by choice. We appreciate comfort and ease far more deeply. After fasting briefly, food tastes better. After experiencing cold, warmth feels more precious. This intentional contrast creates genuine gratitude, enhancing our daily enjoyment of life's comforts. Voluntary discomfort also cultivates humility and compassion. By experiencing small hardships intentionally, we gain empathy for others who face similar or far greater challenges involuntarily. It gently reminds us of our shared vulnerability as human beings, promoting deeper understanding and kindness toward those around us. So consider choosing a small, manageable form of voluntary discomfort this week. Maybe a cold shower, skipping a meal, or simply sitting quietly without distractions. Notice what happens. You'll likely find it uncomfortable at first, but soon after you might feel calmer, more confident, and more grateful. You've reminded yourself that discomfort, rather than something to avoid, can actually be a path to genuine strength and clarity. Speaking of clarity, another vital Stoic skill is the ability to remain calm under pressure, responding thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. How might cultivating emotional detachment help us handle life's challenges with greater composure? Let's explore that idea. Next, 10 emotional detachment: responding, not reacting. Have you ever reacted impulsively in the heat of the moment, only to regret your response later? Maybe someone criticized your work, cut you off in traffic, or simply said something you disagreed with before you knew it. Frustration or anger took over, leading you to respond in ways that didn't reflect your best self. We've all experienced it, but imagine if you could consistently pause, step back, and respond thoughtfully rather than react emotionally. This ability, emotional detachment, is at the heart of Stoicism. However, the word detachment often gets misunderstood. The Stoics didn't advocate ignoring or suppressing emotions. Instead, they encouraged developing the capacity to calmly observe feelings without immediately being controlled by them. Epictetus put it beautifully: it's not things themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about these things. This subtle distinction is incredibly powerful. Stoicism teaches us that while we can't control external events, other people's behavior, the economy, traffic, or daily inconveniences, we always have control over how we respond. Emotional detachment is precisely this skill. Learning to pause briefly between a stimulus and our reaction, creating space to choose our response consciously. Think about your daily interactions. A coworker makes a critical remark and you feel a rush of defensiveness. Your first instinct might be to snap back or withdraw angrily. Emotional detachment helps you pause, recognize your feelings of hurt or irritation, and then consciously decide how to respond. Instead of reacting impulsively, you calmly ask yourself, is reacting this way helpful? What response aligns best with my values and goals? The key to emotional detachment isn't suppression, but mindfulness. Simply observing your emotions as they arise, recognizing their temporary nature, and then deciding deliberately how to respond. You acknowledge frustration or anger without being immediately swept away by it with practice. This simple skill profoundly changes how you navigate stressful situations. Practically, cultivating emotional detachment means regularly reminding yourself that your emotional reactions are natural but temporary. You might feel angry, sad, or anxious, but you aren't forced to act on these emotions. This subtle shift in thinking dramatically improves your daily interactions, allowing you greater calmness, clarity, and self-control. The Stoics understood that emotional reactions often arise from our assumptions or interpretations about situations, not from the situations themselves. A delayed email from your boss might initially trigger worry or annoyance, but with emotional detachment, you pause and recognize your assumptions. Maybe your boss is simply busy, or there's another explanation. Suddenly, your anxiety decreases, your perspective broadens, and you respond calmly rather than emotionally. Practicing emotional detachment doesn't mean becoming robotic or unfeeling. Rather, it deepens emotional intelligence. By observing emotions without immediately reacting, you gain deeper insight into yourself and others. Over time, you become more patient, compassionate, and resilient, able to maintain composure even when facing challenging circumstances. Imagine approaching life's inevitable frustrations with this stoic calmness. Imagine feeling less reactive and more thoughtful, less anxious and more confident. This small shift, consistently pausing before reacting, has transformative power, allowing you to live intentionally rather than reactively. So the next time you are faced with a stressful moment, criticism, conflict, or disappointment, try to pause. Take a breath. Notice your emotions without immediately acting on them. Ask yourself, how do I truly want to respond? You will likely find that this brief pause completely changes the outcome, improving not only your own inner peace, but your relationships and daily life as well. Speaking of responding positively to life's challenges, the Stoics embraced another powerful concept, Amor Fati, the idea of not merely accepting fate, but actively loving and embracing it. How might fully accepting and even welcoming the circumstances we face transform our daily experiences? Let's explore this essential idea. Next 11, Amor Fati, loving fate, not just accepting it. Have you ever faced a situation in life that felt deeply unfair or frustrating? Something completely outside your control? Maybe it was losing a job, dealing with unexpected health issues, or facing a setback in a relationship. Our first instinct in these moments is often resistance, frustration, even despair. Yet the Stoics propose something radically different. Not just accepting these circumstances passively, but actively embracing them, loving our fate exactly as it is. This powerful idea is captured in the Latin phrase Amor Fati, meaning love of fate. It's more than simple acceptance or resignation. It's the active decision to see each challenge as an opportunity to learn, grow, and become stronger. Nietzsche famously described Amor Fati as his formula for human greatness, not merely tolerating life's difficulties, but genuinely loving them. At first glance, this concept seems incredibly difficult. How can we possibly love setbacks, difficulties, or painful experiences? Yet the Stoics believed that by actively embracing these experiences, we transform them. Rather than feeling victimized or defeated, we choose to find meaning, strength, and even joy in the struggle itself. Consider Marcus Aurelius. Despite facing immense responsibilities, wars, betrayals, and personal tragedies, he continually reminded himself to embrace fate with open arms. He believed every circumstance, even the most challenging, presented an opportunity to practice virtue, patience, courage, and wisdom. By loving his fate, Marcus shifted his mindset from frustration and resistance to curiosity and growth. Think about moments in your own life when a difficult situation eventually led to significant growth or clarity. Perhaps losing a job guided you toward a more meaningful career. Maybe ending a challenging relationship opened the door to healthier connections. In hindsight, we often recognize how hardships shaped us positively, teaching valuable lessons, deepening empathy, and revealing our inner strength. But the Stoics encourage us not to wait for hindsight. They urge us to actively practice Amor Fati in real time as challenges occur. This doesn't mean denying or minimizing difficulty. Instead, it means facing situations with a mindset that says, I didn't choose this, but I choose how to respond. How can I grow from this? What good can I find here? Practically, Amor involves consciously reframing situations when challenges arise. Instead of immediately labeling them as negative, we pause and ask, what's the opportunity here? How might this situation teach me? Patience, resilience, or compassion over time, this subtle shift dramatically changes our experience of adversity. There's also a profound sense of peace in this approach. Rather than struggling against things we can't control, we find freedom in full acceptance. We let go of resistance, frustration, and bitterness, replacing them with curiosity and openness. Even when circumstances remain difficult, our internal experience improves dramatically. Imagine waking up each morning determined to embrace whatever the day brings. Rather than fearing uncertainty, you approach challenges calmly, even eagerly. Knowing each one offers valuable lessons by loving fate. We free ourselves from anxiety and resistance, living each moment with gratitude, courage, and deep inner calm. So the next time you face an unexpected difficulty, whether small or significant, try to adopt the mindset of Amor Fati. Remind yourself gently, this situation is exactly what it needs to be. What can I learn from this? How can I grow? Notice how this subtle shift in thinking profoundly transforms your experience, turning life's inevitable challenges into meaningful opportunities for growth. Speaking of cultivating deeper inner peace and contentment, the Stoics also emphasized controlling our desires, learning to want less rather than constantly craving more. How might mastering our desires lead to greater fulfillment and freedom in our daily lives? Let's explore this essential Stoic practice. Next 12, controlling desires, learning to want less. Have you ever noticed how often our desires seem endless? We chase after bigger homes, nicer cars, better jobs, more social media followers. The list goes on indefinitely. Yet no matter how much we acquire, satisfaction often feels fleeting. The Stoics understood this paradox deeply. True happiness rarely comes from fulfilling every desire. Instead, lasting peace is found by learning to desire less. Epicteus captured this insight when he said, freedom is not procured by a full enjoyment of what is desired, but by controlling the desire itself. In other words, true mastery over life doesn't involve getting everything we want, but rather gaining control over what we crave in the first place. The Stoics recognize that unchecked desire is like an endless cycle. It promises happiness, but often delivers dissatisfaction and anxiety. Modern culture, driven by advertising and consumerism, actively encourages us to want more. Constantly, we are surrounded by messages that tell us happiness lies just beyond our next purchase or achievement. Yet the Stoics remind us that this chase rarely leads to genuine fulfillment. Instead, lasting contentment arises from cultivating a mindset of gratitude, simplicity, and thoughtful moderation. Imagine your own experience. Perhaps you've eagerly desired something, a new phone, a job promotion, a certain social status, only to find that once achieved, the happiness was short-lived. Quickly, your attention shifted to the next desire, leaving you caught in an endless loop of craving and dissatisfaction. Stoicism offers a profound solution, learning to want less but appreciate more deeply. When we consciously simplify our desires, we free ourselves from constant craving. This doesn't mean giving up all ambitions or comforts. Rather, it's about carefully reflecting on what truly brings lasting joy, purpose, and peace, letting go of superficial desires that add stress and anxiety. Marcus Aurelius often reflected in his journals on how little was needed to live happily. Despite being emperor and having vast wealth and power, he reminded himself frequently of simplicity's value. He understood that true happiness didn't require endless wealth, possessions, or status, but rather appreciation for simple, meaningful pleasures. Practically learning to want less involves intentionally examining our desires. When we notice ourselves craving something new, whether material goods, recognition, or achievement, we pause and ask ourselves, do I truly need this? Will this bring lasting satisfaction or just temporary pleasure? Often this brief reflection reveals that many desires are fleeting impulses rather than genuine needs. The beauty of controlling our desires lies in the freedom it provides. When we desire less, we become less vulnerable to external circumstances. Economic changes, other people's opinions, or temporary setbacks. Our happiness becomes stable, rooted in gratitude and contentment rather than endless craving. Moreover, wanting less increases our ability to genuinely enjoy what we already have. When we are constantly pursuing more, we rarely pause to appreciate our current blessings, good health, meaningful relationships, simple comforts. But by cultivating simplicity and moderation, we find deeper satisfaction in ordinary moments. A morning cup of coffee, time spent with loved ones, a peaceful walk. These simple pleasures suddenly feel richer and more meaningful. Consider experimenting with this Stoic principle practically next time you feel a strong desire for something, especially something you suspect won't truly satisfy. Pause. Briefly ask yourself if this desire aligns with your values or brings lasting meaning. Notice how letting go of unnecessary cravings leads to deeper peace, gratitude, and joy. Ultimately, the Stoics remind us that the greatest freedom isn't found by fulfilling endless desires. True freedom comes when we realize how little we truly need to be happy and fulfilled. By consciously learning to want less, we gain greater peace, deeper satisfaction, and a more meaningful connection to life itself. So after exploring these 12 Stoic habits, we are left with an intriguing question. What does it truly mean to live? Well, perhaps it isn't found in chasing endless desires, avoiding discomfort, or constantly seeking comfort and convenience. Maybe the secret to genuine happiness and fulfillment lies precisely in those quiet, consistent actions. We often overlook daily journaling, mindful walking, small steps toward progress, doing good beyond ourselves, embracing life's inevitable hardships, and cultivating emotional detachment. The Stoics remind us gently, yet powerfully, that life isn't about eliminating every difficulty, but rather embracing each moment, good or bad. As an opportunity to grow, they encourage us to approach life with humility, wisdom, and simplicity, turning challenges into lessons and everyday actions into meaningful rituals. Imagine waking up tomorrow with renewed intention, knowing you don't need grand gestures or dramatic changes. To find peace or satisfaction, you simply need quiet, consistent commitment, journaling your thoughts honestly, walking to clear your mind, practicing justice in daily interactions, or gently pushing your boundaries with voluntary discomfort. Each small habit builds resilience, clarity, and contentment bit by bit, day by day. But above all, Stoicism teaches us to pause frequently, reflect deeply, and consciously choose how we respond to life's endless flow of events. By adopting this simple, intentional approach, we regain control over our inner world, even when external circumstances remain uncertain or challenging. So here's the open-ended question I leave you with today. If true happiness comes not from acquiring more, but from needing less, and if real strength lies not in avoiding discomfort, but in embracing it, how might your daily actions change? Starting right now, think about it, reflect on it, and most importantly, live it. Because philosophy, after all, is not merely about knowing. It's about being, becoming, and embodying the wisdom we discover along the way. Your subconscious doesn't distinguish between reality and imagination. Use this to your advantage. The subconscious mind is a powerful force, yet it lacks one crucial ability. It cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is vividly imagined. This is why a nightmare can cause real fear, why a remembered failure can trigger shame as if it were happening again, and why visualization, when done correctly, can rewire the brain as effectively as real-world experience. The thoughts and images you repeatedly expose yourself to shape your identity, not because they are true, but because your subconscious accepts them as reality. This is why elite athletes and high performers use mental rehearsal to enhance their skills. Olympic competitors don't just train physically. They visualize themselves winning, feeling every movement, every sensation long before they step onto the track. Studies show that when an athlete imagines themselves practicing a skill with great detail, their brain activates the same neural pathways as if they were physically performing the action. The mind cannot tell the difference, so it strengthens those connections, making success feel natural rather than foreign. But this principle extends beyond sports. Top performers in business, public speaking, and creative fields also use mental conditioning to shape their confidence and capabilities. They mentally rehearse important conversations, imagine themselves handling pressure effortlessly, and condition their minds to expect success rather than fear failure. When the subconscious is repeatedly exposed to an idea, it stops questioning it. It accepts it as a given. Yet this power cuts both ways. Just as the mind can be trained for success, it can also be programmed for failure. If you constantly imagine worst-case scenarios, if you dwell on past mistakes, if you repeatedly tell yourself, "I'm not good enough," your subconscious will believe it. And once it believes something, it finds ways to make it true. It will subtly sabotage efforts, lower confidence, and filter the world in a way that reinforces those negative expectations. In essence, your subconscious is always listening, always absorbing. The question is, what are you feeding it? The Stoics understood this. Centuries ago, Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the importance of shaping one's perceptions, reminding himself that our life is what our thoughts make it. He knew that the mind, when left untrained, falls into patterns of fear and negativity, but when deliberately guided, it becomes an unshakable foundation for resilience and success. So how do you use this to your advantage? The key is deliberate mental conditioning. If your subconscious is always accepting input, take control of what it receives, visualize success before it happens. Speak to yourself in ways that reinforce capability rather than doubt. Mentally rehearse challenges not as sources of fear, but as opportunities to demonstrate strength. This is not self-deception. It is a strategic rewiring of your mind's expectations. If the subconscious cannot distinguish between reality and imagination, then why not create a mental environment that supports you rather than undermines you? The most successful people do not wait for confidence to arrive. They build it one thought at a time. Your subconscious is already shaping your life. The question is, are you the one in control of the process, or is it happening to you by default? Affirmations, the right way to talk to your subconscious mind. The way you speak to yourself shapes everything. Your confidence, your actions, your success. Yet most people engage in self-talk that weakens them rather than strengthens them. They repeat phrases like, "I'm not good enough," "I always fail," or "this will never work for me," without realizing that their subconscious is listening, absorbing, and reinforcing those beliefs as truth. The mind believes what it hears repeatedly, not what is necessarily true. This is why affirmations can be a powerful tool, but only if used correctly. Most people misunderstand affirmations. They assume that simply repeating positive phrases like "I am successful" or "I am confident" will magically rewire their subconscious. But the problem is, if your mind does not already believe the statement, it will reject it. If a person who struggles with self-doubt repeats, "I am unstoppable," their subconscious will respond with skepticism. No, you are not. This is why generic affirmations often fail. They do not align with what the mind already accepts as possible. So how do affirmations actually work? The key is making them believable and progressive. Instead of trying to force the subconscious to accept something it does not yet see as true, start with statements that bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Rather than saying, "I am confident," when you feel anything but say, "I am learning to build confidence every day," instead of "I am wealthy" when struggling financially. Try, "I am developing the mindset and habits of financially successful people." These statements feel real, which means the subconscious will not reject them. Another crucial factor is emotion. The subconscious does not respond to empty words. It responds to feeling. Repeating an affirmation, Mechanically does nothing but saying it with conviction, visualizing it and experiencing the emotion behind it, imprints it on the mind. When affirmations are paired with visualization, seeing yourself succeed, feeling the confidence, experiencing the moment as if it were real, they become exponentially more effective. This is why elite athletes and high performers don't just repeat words. They immerse themselves in the experience of success before it happens. Science supports this approach. Neuroplasticity research shows that the brain rewires itself based on repeated thoughts and experiences. The more you reinforce a belief with both language and emotion, the stronger the neural pathways associated with that belief become over time. What once felt forced starts to feel natural, and what once felt impossible becomes automatic. The brain is adaptable, and with the right conditioning, it begins to align reality with the thoughts it is repeatedly exposed to. The Stoics also practiced a form of mental conditioning. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of the principles he wanted to live by writing affirmations in his personal meditations to reinforce his values. He understood that the mind, when left unchecked, defaults to fear, doubt, and external influence. But when guided intentionally, it becomes the strongest ally in achieving mastery over life. Affirmations, when done correctly, are not about mindless repetition. They are about conscious mental reprogramming. They should be specific, believable, and emotionally charged. They should bridge the gap between who you are now and who you are becoming. And most importantly, they should be practiced consistently. Just as physical strength is built through repetition, mental strength is developed by conditioning the subconscious daily. Your subconscious is always listening. The words you feed it either reinforce limitation or build resilience. So the question is, what story are you telling yourself? Sleep and the subconscious programming your mind overnight. The mind does not shut down when you sleep. It processes, organizes, and absorbs information, often working harder at night than during the day. While the body rests, the subconscious remains active, reinforcing patterns, replaying experiences, and strengthening whatever thoughts and beliefs were most present before sleep. This is why the last thing you focus on before bed has a profound impact on your mindset, emotions, and even your ability to achieve long-term success. Many people unknowingly program their subconscious with stress, negativity, and worry before they sleep. They scroll through social media, filling their minds with comparison and distraction. They dwell on the frustrations of the day, replaying conflicts and failures. They flood their subconscious with anxious thoughts about tomorrow, allowing fear to settle into their mind overnight. And then they wonder why they wake up feeling exhausted, unmotivated, or burdened by the same thoughts they had the day before. The Stoics understood the importance of mental preparation before sleep. Marcus Aurelius, in his private meditations, reflected on his thoughts at the end of each day, ensuring that his mind was disciplined rather than chaotic before he rested. He reviewed his actions, questioned his emotions, and reinforced the principles he wanted to live by. This practice was not just philosophical, it was psychological conditioning. By consciously shaping his thoughts before sleep, he influenced the way his subconscious processed experiences, ensuring that his mind worked for him rather than against him overnight. Modern neuroscience supports this ancient wisdom. Studies show that the brain consolidates memories, reinforces neural pathways, and strengthens learned behaviors while sleeping. What you repeatedly think about before bed becomes part of your mental framework. This is why high performers, creative minds, and top athletes deliberately use nighttime programming techniques to shape their subconscious. They engage in mental visualization, replaying their goals, imagining success, and reinforcing confidence before sleep, allowing their brain to process and strengthen these thoughts overnight. One particularly effective technique is the nighttime question method used by creative geniuses like Thomas Edison and Salvador Dali. The idea is simple. Before sleep, ask yourself a question related to a problem you want to solve, a goal you want to achieve, or a mindset you want to develop. The subconscious, always searching for patterns and solutions, works on the problem while you sleep, often leading to insights or clarity upon waking. Many great ideas, breakthroughs, and artistic inspirations have emerged from this practice, proving that the mind's greatest work often happens in the stillness of the night. Another powerful tool is intentional affirmations before sleep. Unlike generic affirmations repeated throughout the day, these statements take deeper root at night because the subconscious is more receptive in a relaxed state. Instead of replaying worries, one can deliberately repeat beliefs that reinforce confidence, resilience, and clarity. Statements like "I am capable of handling any challenge" or "my mind is focused and clear" become embedded as the brain processes thoughts during sleep, strengthening self-perception over time. If sleep is a period of subconscious programming, then the inputs before bed determine the outputs of the next day. Instead of allowing stress, distraction, or mindless content to shape your mind overnight, use this time as an opportunity for deliberate mental conditioning. Reflect, visualize, ask powerful questions, and set an intention for your subconscious to work on. Just as the body recovers and strengthens itself during rest, the mind, when directed correctly, can wake up sharper, clearer, and more aligned with success. Your subconscious is always listening. The question is, what are you allowing it to absorb while you sleep? Your environment shapes your subconscious. How to optimize it? Your mind is constantly absorbing information, whether you realize it or not. Every conversation you engage in, every piece of content you consume, every space you spend time in, each element leaves an imprint on your subconscious. The environment you live in, both physically and mentally, is not just a backdrop to your thoughts. It is the raw material from which they are formed. If you do not shape your environment intentionally, it will shape you passively. Many people struggle with negative thinking, self-doubt, or lack of motivation without realizing that their environment is reinforcing these patterns. They surround themselves with people who complain, engage in conversations that drain their energy, or expose themselves to content that fills their minds with fear, outrage, or distraction. Over time, these external influences become internalized. The subconscious, always listening, absorbs these signals and integrates them into its framework. Just as an unhealthy diet weakens the body, and unfiltered mental diet weakens the mind. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He recognized that external influences could corrupt the mind if not carefully filtered. He reminded himself to remain cautious of the people and ideas he surrounded himself with, ensuring that his environment aligned with his values rather than undermining them. His meditations were not just reflections, they were tools to reset his mind, shielding himself from the negativity and distractions of the Roman court. Seneca too saw the power of environment, warning that the company one keeps inevitably shapes their thoughts and behaviors. He noted that many people unconsciously adopt the fears, desires, and limitations of those around them. His advice was simple but profound. If you wish to develop a strong, focused mind, surround yourself with those who elevate rather than drain you. He believed that wisdom is not only gained from within, but cultivated through external influences that challenge, inspire, and refine the mind. Epicteus approached this principle with practical wisdom. He taught that while external circumstances cannot always be controlled, one's internal environment, the thoughts, habits, and inputs chosen daily, can always be managed. He urged his students to be selective about what they allowed into their minds, understanding that just as a gardener removes weeds to allow strong plants to grow, one must eliminate toxic influences to cultivate a clear, disciplined mindset. In today's world, this lesson is more relevant than ever. Social media, news cycles, entertainment, and daily conversations are filled with negativity, distractions, and limiting beliefs. If left unchecked, these inputs subtly reprogram the subconscious, reinforcing self-doubt, anxiety, or passivity. People wonder why they feel drained, unmotivated, or stuck, yet rarely examine the environment that is shaping their subconscious thoughts. To take control of your mind, you must take control of what surrounds it. Curate your inputs. Choose content that strengthens rather than weakens. Engage with ideas that expand rather than limit. Be intentional with relationships. Surround yourself with people who challenge you to grow, who speak with clarity, and who bring out the best in you. Design your physical space to reflect focus and purpose. A cluttered, chaotic environment breeds a cluttered, chaotic mind. A space that is intentional fosters clarity. Marcus Aurelius guarded his mind against external corruption. Seneca believed that the people and ideas you engage with determine the quality of your thinking. Epictetus saw mental discipline as a daily practice shaped not just by thought, but by the environment in which thought develops. The subconscious mind absorbs everything. So the real question is, are you choosing what it absorbs, or are you letting the world decide for you? Core beliefs, how your inner convictions shape your reality. Every person sees the world through a mental filter, one built not from objective truth, but from deeply ingrained beliefs. These core beliefs act as an invisible force shaping thoughts, emotions, and decisions without conscious awareness. Some people see opportunities where others see obstacles. Some believe they are capable, while others assume failure before even trying. The difference is rarely external circumstances. It is the internal framework through which reality is interpreted. What you believe, whether true or not, determines what you experience. Many people go through life without questioning these beliefs. They assume that the limitations are real, that their fears are justified, that their perception is reality. Yet most core beliefs were not consciously chosen. They were adopted over time, shaped by upbringing, experiences, and societal influence. If someone was told repeatedly as a child that they are not good at math, they internalize that identity, carrying it into adulthood without ever challenging its validity. If someone experiences failure early in life, they may form the belief that they are destined to fail, reinforcing that narrative with every setback. The subconscious does not ask whether a belief is useful. It simply reinforces what it has been conditioned to accept. Marcus Aurelius understood the power of belief in shaping one's experience. He wrote reminders to himself that external events are neutral. It is only the mind that assigns the meaning. A setback is not inherently negative unless one believes it to be. Fear is not an obstacle unless one accepts it as such. He practiced re-examining his thoughts, ensuring that they were not shaped by unconscious assumptions, but by deliberate reasoning. Seneca took this idea further, recognizing that beliefs influence not just perception but action. He observed that those who believe in their own strength act with confidence, while those who doubt themselves hesitate even when fully capable. He saw that self-imposed limitations were often far stronger than external barriers, that most people are held back not by reality, but by the stories they tell themselves. He encouraged questioning every internal assumption, knowing that an unexamined belief could become a lifelong prison. Epictetus taught that beliefs are not just reflections of the past. They are the architects of the future. He saw that those who accept limiting beliefs live constrained lives, while those who challenge them reshape their reality. He advised his students to be ruthless in questioning their internal narratives, reminding them that thoughts are habits and habits can be changed. He believed that true freedom begins when a person realizes that their beliefs are a choice, not a fixed destiny. Modern psychology confirms what the Stoics knew centuries ago. Cognitive behavioral therapy is built on the premise that thoughts and beliefs shape emotional and behavioral patterns. Studies show that when individuals challenge and reframe negative beliefs, their experiences change. Those who believe they are capable take more risks, leading to more opportunities. Those who expect failure avoid challenges, reinforcing their doubts. The mind is a self-fulfilling prophecy. What it expects, it seeks to confirm. So how do you change limiting beliefs? The first step is awareness. Identify the beliefs that hold you back. Are they based on fact or conditioning? Are they universal truths or personal assumptions? The second step is exposure. If you believe something is impossible, surround yourself with people who have done it. If you assume you are not good at something, deliberately challenge that assumption through experience. The third step is repetition. Just as beliefs were formed through repetition, they must be reshaped the same way through consistent reinforcement of a new perspective. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to question his thoughts before accepting them. Seneca saw that belief is the foundation upon which all action is built. Epictetus knew that the mind, if left unexamined, would create limits where none exist. The subconscious does not care what you believe, it simply reinforces it. The real question is, are your beliefs serving you, or are they silently working against you? The power of repetition, how successful people program their minds. Repetition is the foundation of mastery. Every skill, every habit, every belief is built through repeated exposure, reinforcing neural pathways until an action, thought or mindset becomes second nature. Whether you realize it or not, your subconscious mind is shaped by what you do and think most often. The question is, are you programming it intentionally, or is it being programmed by default? Many people assume that change happens through a single breakthrough moment, a sudden realization that transforms their thinking, but in reality the mind does not shift overnight. It is molded through consistent repetition, just as muscles grow through repeated training. Mental strength, discipline and confidence develop through the habits and thoughts that are reinforced daily. The subconscious learns not through logic, but through exposure. What is familiar becomes accepted, and what is repeated becomes automatic. Marcus Aurelius understood the power of repetition. His meditations were not written as philosophical essays for others, but as personal reminders, daily exercises to reinforce clarity, resilience and reason. He did not rely on inspiration to guide his actions. He trained his mind through repeated reflection, ensuring that the values he wished to embody became instinctual rather than theoretical. By writing, rereading and reaffirming his beliefs each day, he conditioned his mind to remain steady regardless of external chaos. Seneca saw repetition as a tool for both growth and destruction. He noted that those who constantly feed their minds negativity, worries, complaints, self-doubt, train themselves into a state of weakness. Likewise, those who deliberately reinforce courage, discipline and perspective strengthen those qualities. He understood that thoughts are like water shaping rock. One drop does little, but repeated over time, it carves deep patterns. This is why he warned against unconscious repetition of harmful thinking and encouraged the deliberate reinforcement of empowering beliefs. Epicteus always focused on self-discipline, saw that a person does not become strong by thinking about strength. They become strong by practicing it. He taught that waiting for motivation or a perfect moment to act is a mistake. Strength comes from daily effort, from choosing to engage in small, disciplined actions that eventually reshape the mind. He advised his students to train their thoughts as one would train the body, understanding that whatever is repeated consistently, whether fear, doubt, or resilience, becomes ingrained. Modern neuroscience confirms what the Stoics knew centuries ago. Repetition rewires the brain. Studies in neuroplasticity show that neural pathways strengthen with use, meaning that the more a thought, behavior, or response is repeated, the more automatic it becomes. This is why those who repeatedly dwell on failure become fearful of trying, while those who reinforce a growth mindset develop greater confidence over time. Successful people do not wait for positive thinking to happen naturally. They condition their minds through structured repetition. So how can you use this principle to reshape your subconscious? First, be intentional about what you repeat. If you constantly tell yourself, "I'm not good at this," your mind will ensure that statement remains true. Replace it with small, believable affirmations such as "I am learning to improve." Second, create rituals that reinforce desired thoughts and behaviors, whether through journaling, mental visualization, or deliberate action. Consistency is key. Third, recognize that small improvements, when compounded daily, create massive change. The mind is not transformed by grand resolutions, but by the repetition of small, disciplined choices. Marcus Aurelius wrote daily to reinforce wisdom. Seneca warned that repeating negative thoughts strengthens them just as much as positive ones. Epictetus taught that discipline, when practiced repeatedly, becomes identity. The mind is shaped by what it encounters most often. The question is not whether repetition works. It always does. The real question is, what are you training your mind to believe? Habits and the subconscious, how small routines shape your identity. People often think that their identity is defined by major life choices, grand achievements, or deep philosophical reflections. But in reality, who you become is determined by the small daily habits that shape your subconscious mind. Your routines, what you do automatically without thinking, dictate your level of success, your mindset, and even your sense of self. The subconscious thrives on repetition, and over time, repeated behaviors become part of your identity. Most people underestimate the power of small habits. They believe that transformation requires drastic change, failing to realize that subtle, consistent actions accumulate into lasting results. A person who consistently chooses discipline over comfort strengthens their self-control. Someone who prioritizes learning each day becomes naturally curious and informed. On the other hand, those who habitually procrastinate reinforce an identity of avoidance. The mind does not judge, it simply adopts what is repeated. Marcus Aurelius understood that character is not shaped by occasional choices, but by daily discipline. He practiced self-reflection each evening, ensuring that his actions aligned with his principles. He knew that even small deviations from virtue, if left unchecked, could grow into habits that weaken the mind. His meditations were not just philosophical exercises, they were habits, repeated practices designed to reinforce the qualities he wished to embody. Seneca recognized that habits dictate the trajectory of life. He noted that people often fall into routines without realizing their long-term consequences. A person who indulges in negativity each day strengthens their tendency toward pessimism. One who regularly practices gratitude builds a resilient mindset. Seneca believed that self-improvement was not about sudden epiphanies, but about small daily choices that compound over time. Epictetus, ever focused on self-discipline, saw habits as the foundation of freedom. He taught that those who do not master their habits become slaves to them. Whether it is the habit of reacting emotionally, wasting time, or making excuses. He encouraged his students to be intentional with their daily routines, knowing that small actions, when repeated, define character more than any single decision ever could. Modern psychology confirms what the Stoics knew centuries ago. Research on habit formation and neuroplasticity shows that the brain automates whatever is done repeatedly. If an action is performed consistently, it becomes wired into the subconscious, making it easier to repeat. This is why small improvements made daily lead to profound changes over time. One of the most powerful strategies for shaping identity through habit is the 1% rule. The idea that improving by just 1% each day leads to massive transformation over time. A small act of discipline, when repeated, builds self-control. A single page read daily turns into lifelong knowledge. A tiny shift in thinking made consistently reshapes mindset. Change happens not in sudden leaps, but in the invisible accumulation of small actions. So how do you take control of your subconscious through habit? First, start small. Drastic changes are often unsustainable, but small, consistent actions reinforce lasting transformation. Second, focus on identity-based habits. Instead of saying, "I want to get in shape," say, "I am the type of person who exercises daily." The subconscious responds strongly to identity reinforcement. Third, remove friction. Make good habits easy to start and bad habits harder to maintain. If social media is a distraction, create barriers to access it. If reading is a priority, make books easily available. Marcus Aurelius trained his mind through daily reflection. Seneca warned that routines, if left unchecked, shape destiny. Epictetus saw habits as the silent architects of character. The mind does not change through willpower alone. It is molded by what you repeatedly do. The real question is, are your habits leading you toward the person you want to become? Overcoming resistance, why your mind fights change and how to bypass it. The mind by nature resists change. It is wired to seek comfort, familiarity, and certainty, all of which are threatened by transformation. Every new goal, every attempt to break free from old patterns, triggers a deep instinctive resistance. This is not a sign of weakness or failure. It is simply the brain's way of protecting itself from the unknown, from discomfort, from anything that threatens the status quo. The challenge then is not in avoiding this resistance. It's in learning how to move through it, to bypass it, and to keep pushing forward despite the discomfort it creates. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply in his personal reflections. He frequently reminded himself that discomfort was not to be feared, but embraced. He recognized that change, whether emotional, intellectual, or behavioral, requires effort, and that this effort often feels unnatural. But he also knew that progress can only be made when one steps outside the comfort zone. The Stoic approach is not to avoid pain, but to accept that it is an inherent part of growth. He practiced this daily, reminding himself that the pain of change is temporary. While the benefits of self-mastery last far longer, Seneca too saw resistance as a natural barrier to progress, but one that could be overcome through consistent action. He noted that the mind associates change with discomfort and uncertainty, and that these feelings often manifest as fear. Yet he argued that once we begin to move through that fear, once we take small steps toward transformation, the discomfort fades and is replaced with empowerment. Seneca emphasized the importance of starting. The hardest part is always the beginning. He said, once the first step is taken, the mind becomes accustomed to the change and the resistance weakens. Epicteus taught that the key to overcoming resistance is reframing how we perceive it. He believed that much of the difficulty we face in change is rooted in our perceptions of what change means. We often view resistance as something to fight against, a barrier that stops us in our tracks. But Epictetus taught that resistance is not the enemy. It is simply the mind's way of preserving old patterns. Instead of resisting resistance, he advised accepting it and moving through it with patience. By doing so, we develop a tolerance for discomfort and learn that change is not a threat to our well-being, but a necessary part of growth. In today's world, resistance to change is more prevalent than ever. We live in a world of convenience where instant gratification is at our fingertips and where the comfort of familiarity often overrides the desire for growth. The brain has become accustomed to avoiding effort and seeking shortcuts, making it more difficult to engage in the deep work required for personal transformation. Yet this resistance is not insurmountable. It is simply a habit that can be rewired. To overcome resistance, you must first acknowledge it as a natural part of the process. Understand that it is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something is changing. Once you accept this, you can begin to use resistance as a signal for growth rather than a roadblock. The key is to start small and build momentum, knowing that the initial discomfort will pass. Create rituals that make change easier. Set aside time every day for the work you are avoiding. Break goals into manageable steps and use positive reinforcement to reward progress. Marcus Aurelius embraced discomfort as part of the path to mastery. Seneca knew that the first step was the hardest, but the most important. Epictetus recognized that resistance was not an obstacle, but a sign that progress was happening. Change is never easy, but it is always possible when we learn to move through resistance rather than against it. The question is not whether resistance will arise, it will. The question is, how will you choose to respond? The law of attraction, why it fails for most people, and how to make it work. The idea that your thoughts shape your reality is not new. The law of attraction suggests that what you focus on, you attract. It's a compelling concept. Think positively, visualize success, and the universe will align to bring you what you desire. Yet, despite the widespread popularity of this idea, most people who practice it see little to no results. Why? Because attraction without action is nothing more than wishful thinking. The problem with how most people approach the law of attraction is that they treat it as a passive process. They believe that if they simply think about wealth, confidence, or success, these things will naturally manifest. But Marcus Aurelius understood that thoughts alone are not enough. They must be paired with action. He wrote extensively about how the mind influences perception, but he never advocated waiting for the universe to provide. Instead, he emphasized preparing the mind for action using visualization, not as a replacement for effort, but as a tool to strengthen focus and determination. Seneca too saw that people often confuse desire with destiny. He noted that many wish for success, peace, or happiness, but few are willing to do the uncomfortable work required to achieve those things. He believed that the universe does not reward thoughts, it rewards preparedness. To Seneca, the law of attraction was not about sitting back and waiting for fate to deliver. It was about aligning thought with deliberate effort, ensuring that mindset and action moved in the same direction. Epictetus took a more grounded approach. He taught that external events are beyond our control, but how we respond to them shapes our reality. He saw that those who believe they can simply attract what they want without engagement are missing the point. The subconscious plays a crucial role in shaping outcomes, but it responds to repetition, discipline, and behavior, not just positive thinking. If you train yourself to expect opportunity, you will be more likely to notice it. If you reinforce a growth mindset, you will persist where others quit. But these results are not handed out. They are earned. Modern psychology confirms this. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and neuroscience. Studies show that while thoughts do influence perception, they only lead to transformation when combined with action. The reticular activating system, eras in the brain, filters information based on what we focus on, meaning that if we prime our minds for success, we are more likely to recognize opportunities when they appear. But without effort, these opportunities remain just that, possibilities rather than realities. So how can the law of attraction actually work? First, shift from passive visualization to active mental conditioning. Instead of just imagining success, pair it with concrete plans. If you visualize yourself achieving a goal, ask yourself, what action can I take today to move closer to this reality? Second, align daily habits with desired outcomes. If you want to become a confident speaker, don't just think about it. Practice speaking even in small ways every day. Third, reinforce belief through action. The mind accepts what is repeatedly experienced. Confidence, discipline, and success are not just thoughts, they are habits. Marcus Aurelius trained his mind not to expect outcomes, but to prepare for them. Seneca knew that attraction without action was empty. Epictetus believed that change comes from engagement with life, not from waiting for it to unfold perfectly. The law of attraction works only when paired with work. The real formula is simple: focus, act, repeat. The mind is powerful, but only when you give it a reason to be. The universe may not hand you success, but when you align thought with action, you create the conditions for success to find you, the conscious-subconscious connection, using it to your advantage. The mind operates on two levels, the conscious and the subconscious. The conscious mind is what you actively think with. It is logical, analytical, and aware. It makes plans, sets goals, and engages in problem solving. But beneath the surface, the subconscious mind is always at work, shaping your habits, emotions, and automatic reactions. It is vast, powerful, and deeply influential, yet most people never deliberately engage with it. Those who learn to bridge the gap between these two levels of thinking unlock a profound advantage. They become architects of their own mindset rather than prisoners of old conditioning. One of the most fascinating aspects of the subconscious mind is how it delivers insights when you are not actively searching for them. This is why the best ideas often come when you are relaxed, while taking a shower, going for a walk, or just before falling asleep. The conscious mind, when too focused, can become rigid, blocking creative problem solving. But when the mind is allowed to drift, the subconscious takes over, connecting ideas in unexpected ways. Thomas Edison, Salvador Dali, and even Marcus Aurelius understood this, deliberately using moments of relaxation to allow deeper thoughts to emerge. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the importance of reflection, engaging in deep thought, but also allowing space for clarity to arise naturally. He understood that wisdom does not come from forcing thoughts, but from giving the mind time to process, connect, and interpret information. His nightly meditations were a way to engage both the conscious and subconscious, ensuring that his mind was not just reacting to the day, but actively learning from it. Seneca saw that overloading the mind with excessive worry, distractions, or meaningless concerns weakens its ability to process important information. He believed in mental minimalism, removing unnecessary noise so that the subconscious could work efficiently. He advised that those who constantly fill their minds with trivial distractions, whether gossip, excessive entertainment, or unfiltered media, clog their ability to think deeply. To him, a sharp mind is one that is given space to reflect, observe, and connect ideas without constant interruption. Epictetus viewed self-awareness as the bridge between the conscious and subconscious. He taught that people who act purely on impulse are controlled by unconscious patterns. They never question. Those who train themselves to observe their reactions rather than just experiencing them gain access to deeper self-mastery to him. The subconscious does not dictate fate. It simply follows whatever conditioning it receives. If it is shaped by fear and negativity, it reinforces those patterns. But if it is trained through discipline and conscious intent, it becomes an engine for growth, resilience, and wisdom. Modern neuroscience confirms what the Stoics intuitively understood: the default mode network, DMN in the brain, active during moments of rest, plays a key role in problem-solving, creativity, and emotional regulation. Studies show that stepping away from active thinking, allowing thoughts to settle, engaging in deep reflection, or practicing mindfulness leads to breakthrough insights and clearer decision-making. The subconscious mind is always processing, but it needs the right conditions to work effectively. So how do you use this connection to your advantage? First, create space for your mind to work. Moments of silence, reflection, and mental stillness allow the subconscious to organize information and present solutions. Second, feed your subconscious the right material. What you read, watch, and engage with daily becomes the raw material. For your deeper thoughts, choose wisely. Third, engage in active self-awareness. Question automatic reactions, notice patterns in your thinking, and be deliberate about the beliefs you reinforce. Marcus Aurelius trained his mind through reflection. Seneca practiced mental discipline to ensure clarity. Epictetus understood that self-awareness is the key to subconscious mastery. Your mind is always working, always shaping the reality you experience. The real question is, are you using this power with intention, or are you letting it operate on autopilot? The choice, as always, is yours. Your subconscious mind is not just a passive background process. It is the silent architect of your reality. It absorbs everything. You expose it to reinforcing habits, shaping beliefs, and guiding decisions long before you consciously realize it. Those who fail to recognize this live on autopilot, reacting to thoughts they never chose, held back by patterns they never questioned. But those who take control of their subconscious gain an extraordinary advantage. They shape their minds with intention, ensuring that their deepest thoughts and instincts work for them, not against them. The Stoics understood that mastery of the mind is the foundation of self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to challenge negative perceptions, ensuring that his subconscious did not become a breeding ground for fear or doubt. Seneca saw that daily habits, both mental and physical, determine the course of a person's life. Epictetus believed that true freedom is found not in external circumstances, but in control over one's own thoughts. They knew that if you do not train your mind, the world will train it for you. Your subconscious is already shaping your future. The question is, are you the one programming it, or are you letting random influences dictate your mindset? Success, discipline, confidence. These are not traits people are born with. They are built, conditioned, and reinforced through daily practice. This is not about waiting for the right moment to take control of your subconscious. It's about starting now. Your thoughts, your routines, the way you speak to yourself. All of it matters. Every day, you are either strengthening a mindset that serves you or reinforcing one that limits you. The choice is yours. Train your mind, direct your thoughts, and create the future you want before someone else does it for you. Anger is a fire. It rises suddenly, consuming clarity, distorting perception, and leaving destruction in its wake. But like all fires, it needs fuel. It cannot burn without something to sustain it, whether that be resentment, wounded pride, or unmet expectations. Buddhism teaches that anger is not an external force, nor is it something imposed upon us by others. It is a reaction, a fleeting state of mind that only persists when we hold on to it. Most people believe anger is justified. They see it as a response to wrongdoing, an unavoidable part of life. But Buddhism takes a different view. It suggests that anger is a choice, not a necessity. It arises, but it does not have to take root. It appears, but it does not have to linger. The mind, when untrained, clings to frustration, replaying past offenses, justifying resentment, and feeding irritation. But a trained mind, a mindful mind, sees anger for what it truly is. Temporary, self-created, and ultimately unnecessary. To never be angry or bothered by others is not about suppressing emotions. It is about understanding them. It is about stepping outside of the reaction, observing it without attachment, and allowing it to pass like a cloud. Drifting across the sky through wisdom, awareness, and practice, anger loses its grip, and what remains is something deeper, patience, peace, and an unshakable calm that no external force can disturb. The path is simple, yet it requires effort. It begins with recognizing that anger is not something others give us. It is something we create, and if we are the creators, we also have the power to let it go. Everything is temporary, even anger. Nothing in life is permanent. The seasons change, the tides rise and fall, and even the tallest mountains erode over time. And yet, when anger arises, it feels absolute, like something that demands attention, something that must be acted upon. But Buddhism teaches that anger, like all emotions, is fleeting. It is not a fixed state of being. It is a passing cloud in the sky of the mind. The only reason it lingers is because we hold on to it. Think about the last time you were truly angry. In the moment, it might have felt overwhelming, urgent, like the only thing that mattered. But where is that anger now, if it has faded? Was it ever as real or permanent as it seemed? Most of what upsets us today becomes irrelevant with time. The insult that stung, the inconvenience that irritated, the argument that consumed your thoughts. None of it stays. It passes like every other moment in life, and yet people suffer because they resist this truth. They replay past frustrations, revive old grievances, and relive pain that could have dissolved naturally. Buddhism teaches that suffering comes not from what happens, but from attachment to what happens. Anger is no exception. The more you justify it, the more it stays. The more you dwell on it, the more it grows. But the moment you recognize its impermanence, it begins to lose power. When a strong emotion arises, a trained mind does not react immediately. It observes. It acknowledges the feeling without becoming consumed by it. It understands that anger is a visitor, not a resident. One of the simplest yet most powerful Buddhist practices is this: when anger arises, do nothing. Let it be. Do not resist it, but do not fuel it either. Watch it the way you would watch a wave rise and fall. You will notice something incredible. It weakens on its own. Without your participation, it fades. Without your attachment, it disappears. Everything in life is temporary. Anger is no different. Once you see this truth, irritation loses its grip. Frustration dissolves more easily, and peace becomes something you no longer have to chase. It becomes your natural state. Observe without attachment. Your thoughts are not you. A thought arises. They disrespected me. A feeling follows frustration, resentment, the urge to react in that moment. It feels automatic, as if anger is the only possible response. But Buddhism teaches that thoughts and emotions are not absolute truths. They are simply mental events, like ripples on the surface of a lake. The problem is not that anger appears, it is that we identify with it. We mistake passing thoughts for reality. We believe that because a feeling is strong, it must be acted upon. But what if that assumption is false? Imagine sitting by a river, watching leaves float past. Some are small, drifting by unnoticed. Others catch your attention, pulling you in. This is how the mind works. Thoughts, emotions, and reactions constantly moving through awareness. Most people, without realizing it, jump into the river. They grab onto certain thoughts, carry them, follow them wherever they lead. But a trained mind remains on the shore. It observes without attachment. It watches emotions rise and fall without getting swept away. This is the essence of mindfulness. The ability to witness thoughts and emotions as temporary experiences rather than unquestionable truths. When anger arises, you do not have to suppress it, nor do you have to act on it. You can simply watch it. Our anger is here. This simple act of observation changes everything. The moment you step back and see anger for what it is, a passing sensation rather than a command, you weaken its control over you. Buddhist monks practice this daily. When frustration arises, they do not react immediately. They do not feed the story that justifies anger. Instead, they pause, breathe, and observe. They allow space between the emotion and the response. And in that space, anger loses its urgency. It fades because it was never permanent to begin with. In life, you will face situations that trigger frustration, rudeness, unfairness, misunderstandings. But the difference between peace and suffering is not in what happens, but in how you relate to it. If you see anger as part of your identity, you will carry it. But if you see it as just another thought passing through the mind, you can let it go just as easily as it arrived. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer, and the more you practice stepping back, the less control anger will have over you. Drop expectations. Attachment creates frustration. At the root of almost every frustration is an expectation, an unspoken belief that the world should be a certain way, that people should act as we think they should, that life should unfold according to our plans. But Buddhism teaches that suffering arises when we clinging to these expectations, refusing to accept things as they are. The more rigidly we hold on to how we think life should be, the more pain we experience when reality doesn't align with our desires. Think about the last time someone irritated you. Was it because of their actions or because their actions did not match your expectations? You expected them to be kinder, to be more understanding, to treat you with more respect, but they did not. And that gap, the space between what you expected and what actually happened, is where frustration takes root. The mind resists reality, insisting that things should be different, but reality does not bend to our expectations. It moves as it always has, indifferent to whether we approve of it or not. Buddhism teaches that peace is not found in controlling others, but in letting go of attachment to how they should behave. This does not mean you do not care. It does not mean you accept mistreatment. It simply means you stop allowing your inner peace to depend on the actions of others. Instead of reacting with anger, you respond with understanding. People act according to their nature, not according to my expectations. A monk once told a simple story. If you step on a thorn, do you get angry at the thorn? No. You accept that thorns exist, that walking barefoot carries risks. You remove it and you move on. But when people feel disrespected or let down, they treat it as a personal attack. They take offense, they hold on to resentment. They replay the situation in their minds. In doing so, they turn a momentary discomfort into prolonged suffering. This is the power of releasing expectations. When you stop assuming that others will act as you wish, you stop being constantly disappointed. When you accept that life unfolds in unpredictable ways, you stop resisting every inconvenience. When you stop believing that the world owes you fairness, you stop being upset when it does not provide it. Buddhism does not suggest passivity. It suggests clarity. See things as they are, not as you wish they were. Expect nothing. Appreciate everything, and you will find that frustration has nowhere left to take hold. Respond with compassion. Hurt people hurt others. It is easy to believe that when someone is rude, dismissive, or cruel, they are acting with intent, that they mean to harm, that they seek to offend, that their words or actions are directed at you. But Buddhism teaches that most people's actions are not personal. They are projections of their own inner struggles, their own unhealed wounds, their own unseen suffering. When someone lashes out, it is often not a reflection of who you are, but of the battles they are fighting within themselves. Imagine a person drowning. Their arms flail, their movements are desperate. If you were nearby, they might grab at you, pull you under, even hurt you in their panic. But their intention is not to harm. They are simply overwhelmed. Anger, bitterness, and cruelty often come from the same place. People act from pain. They have not yet resolved from fears. They do not know how to express from emotions. They have not learned to control. They are drowning in their own suffering, and sometimes that suffering spills onto others. Buddhism teaches that the antidote to anger is not retaliation, but compassion. When you see beyond the surface of someone's behavior and into the suffering that drives it, your response changes. Instead of reacting with offense, you respond with understanding. Instead of feeding conflict, you neutralize it. This does not mean accepting mistreatment, nor does it mean justifying wrongdoing. It means recognizing that when someone hurts others, it is often because they too are hurting. The Buddha once told a story. If a man hands you a burning coal, expecting you to take it, do you grab it or do you let it fall? When someone speaks harshly, when they insult or provoke, they are handing you their suffering. If you react with anger, you have taken it. But if you pause, breathe, and respond with wisdom, the fire never spreads. You remain untouched. Marcus Aurelius, though a Stoic rather than a Buddhist, practiced this same mindset. He reminded himself that people act according to their nature, shaped by their experiences, their hardships, their limitations. He wrote that expecting everyone to be kind and fair is like expecting a fig tree not to bear. Figs people act as they are, not as we wish them to be. When this truth is fully accepted, disappointment fades and unnecessary anger dissolves. Compassion does not mean weakness. It is not about allowing people to walk over you or tolerating harmful behavior. Rather, it is about refusing to carry the negativity that others project. It is about responding with wisdom rather than impulse. It is about choosing peace even when provoked. The next time someone frustrates you, step back, see beyond their words, beyond their actions, into the reality of their own struggles. Maybe they are exhausted, maybe they are lonely, maybe they have never been shown kindness themselves. When you view others this way, anger loses its grip. Instead of reacting with resentment, you respond with something far more powerful: understanding. And when you master this, you will find something rare, a mind that cannot be easily disturbed, a heart that remains light, and a peace that no one can take from you. Use breathing to reset. One deep breath changes everything. When anger rises, the body reacts before the mind even has time to process what is happening. The heart rate spikes, the muscles tense. The breath becomes shallow, the body enters fight or flight mode, ready to attack or defend. In that moment, emotions feel overwhelming, uncontrollable, like a storm raging inside. But Buddhism teaches that there is always a way to return to stillness, no matter how intense the emotion, and that path begins with something so simple, yet so powerful: the breath. The breath is the bridge between the mind and body, between reaction and awareness. It is the one bodily function that happens automatically, but can also be controlled at will. When anger grips the mind, the breath shortens, signaling to the brain that something is wrong, but the reverse is also true. When the breath is deep and steady, it signals the brain that there is no real threat, that there is no need for alarm. A single deep breath has the power to interrupt the cycle of anger before it fully takes hold. Buddhist monks have long used breathing as a tool for emotional mastery. When frustration arises, they do not immediately react. Instead, they turn inward, focusing on the inhale and exhale, allowing the emotion to pass through without attachment. This practice, known as Anna, mindfulness of breathing, is a core teaching in Buddhism. It is based on the understanding that emotions are like waves. They rise, peak, and inevitably fall. But if you breathe through them rather than reacting impulsively, they lose their power over you. The next time you feel anger creeping in, before speaking, before acting, pause, take a slow, deep breath in. Hold it for a moment, then exhale, releasing tension along with it. Do this again and again. With each breath, you create space between the emotion and the response. With each exhale, the urgency of anger weakens. Instead of being pulled into the storm, you become the observer, standing calmly at its edge, untouched by its force. Modern neuroscience confirms what Buddhist practice has known for centuries. Studies show that deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, counteracting the body's stress response. It slows the heart rate, lowers cortisol levels, and restores clarity to the mind. This is why meditation, which centers around the breath, is one of the most effective ways to reduce stress and increase emotional resilience. Buddhism does not teach suppression of emotions. It teaches mastery over them, and mastery begins with awareness. By learning to control the breath, you learn to control the body. By learning to control the body, you gain control over the mind, and with control over the mind, anger no longer rules you. So the next time frustration rises, remember this: a single deep breath has the power to reset everything. Take that breath, return to the present, and watch as the anger that once seemed so powerful fades, leaving behind nothing but stillness. Release the ego. You are not the center of the universe. Much of our anger is not caused by what others do, but by how personally we take their actions. Someone is rude and we assume they meant to insult us. Someone ignores us and we feel disrespected. Someone disagrees with us and we take it as an attack on our identity. But Buddhism teaches that the self, the version of you that takes offense, that demands recognition, that clings to pride, is an illusion. The moment you loosen your attachment to this false sense of self, you also loosen anger's grip on your mind. The ego thrives on validation. It wants to be acknowledged, respected, admired. It expects fairness, control, and recognition. When reality does not meet these expectations, it reacts with frustration, resentment, even rage. But what if you could see through this illusion? What if you could recognize that the world does not revolve around you, that most actions of others have little to do with you at all? Suddenly, the things that once angered you lose their weight. Buddhism teaches that the ego is a construct. It is not something real, but something the mind clings to. Imagine a rope being mistaken for a snake. If you truly believe it is a snake, fear and panic arise, but the moment you realize it was only a rope, all fear disappears. The same is true for the ego. If you believe in its importance, you will constantly feel threatened by criticism, by rejection, by the actions of others. But the moment you see that the self is just another thought, another mental construct, the power that anger once had over you dissolves. The Buddha taught that clinging to the ego is like carrying a heavy load on your back. Every insult, every moment of disrespect, every unmet expectation adds weight. Most people spend their lives carrying this burden, reacting to every slight, defending their pride, fighting to maintain an image of themselves. But why? If you were given the choice to put the load down, wouldn't you? This does not mean allowing others to walk over you. It does not mean abandoning self-respect. It means understanding that not everything requires a reaction, that not every offense needs to be defended. That true strength is found not in proving yourself, but in realizing that you have nothing to prove. Buddhist monks practice this mindset daily. When someone insults them, they do not react, they smile. They recognize that the words of another are just that, words, not weapons, not wounds, just sounds passing through the air. They understand that their peace is theirs to protect, and that the only way to truly win is to refuse to play the game of ego. Marcus Aurelius, though a Stoic rather than a Buddhist, had a similar perspective. He reminded himself often that other people's opinions, praise and insults were external and therefore meaningless to his inner self. He saw that taking offense was a choice, and that by letting go of pride, he gained something far more valuable: freedom. Ask yourself, how much of my frustration comes from my own ego? The next time anger arises, pause instead of reacting. Ask, does this truly matter? Is this worth my peace? More often than not, you will find that the answer is no. Releasing the ego does not mean losing yourself. It means freeing yourself from anger, from pride, from the endless struggle to prove your worth. Because once you let go of the illusion that everything is about you, you will discover something far greater: peace that nothing and no one can take away. Meditate daily. Strengthen your mind like a muscle. If the body requires training to grow stronger, why should the mind be any different? People expect physical fitness to require effort, exercise, discipline, repetition. Yet when it comes to emotional and mental stability, many assume it should come naturally. They expect to handle stress effortlessly, to remain calm in difficult situations, to let go of anger instantly, but without training the mind, like an unconditioned body remains weak, reactive, easily thrown off balance. Buddhism teaches that meditation is the ultimate training for the mind. It is not about escaping reality, nor is it about suppressing thoughts and emotions. It is about learning to observe them without being controlled by them. Just as lifting weights strengthens muscles, meditation strengthens awareness. It creates a space between emotion and reaction, between thought and identification. It teaches you to sit with discomfort without immediately acting on it, and the more you practice, the greater your control over the mind becomes. Imagine anger as a flame. An untrained mind reacts immediately. It throws fuel onto the fire, allowing irritation to grow into full-blown rage. but a trained mind sees the flame, acknowledges it, and lets it burn out on its own. This is what meditation cultivates: the ability to see emotions arise without being consumed by them, to witness anger and simply let it pass. Buddhist monks do not avoid emotions. They do not pretend they are always at peace. Instead, they train daily, knowing that the mind left unchecked will default to reactivity. When they meditate, they do not seek to suppress anger. They observe it, study it, understand it. Over time, they develop the ability to remain unmoved by what once would have disturbed them. Modern neuroscience supports what Buddhism has known for centuries. Studies show that regular meditation physically changes the brain, strengthening areas responsible for emotional regulation, while reducing activity in the regions associated with stress and fear. People who meditate consistently show lower levels of cortisol, greater self-control, and an increased ability to remain calm under pressure. In other words, meditation is not just a spiritual practice. It is mental conditioning, a tool that rewires the brain for greater resilience. You do not need to be a monk to benefit from this practice. Even a few minutes of daily meditation can create profound change. The next time you feel anger rising, instead of reacting, pause, close your eyes. Take a breath. Observe the sensation, the tension, the heat. Do nothing, simply watch it. And in that stillness, something powerful happens. The anger weakens, it loses its urgency. It no longer controls you. Like any skill, mastery of the mind does not happen overnight. It is a practice, a commitment, a lifelong discipline. But those who train consistently, who strengthen their ability to remain present, who develop the habit of observing rather than reacting, these are the people who discover what so many search for, but rarely find: a mind that is unshaken, a heart that is light, and a peace that cannot be disturbed. Laugh at life. Nothing is as serious as it seems. Most frustrations, when viewed from a distance, become insignificant. The things that feel unbearable today often turn into distant memories. The moments of anger that once consumed us fade into irrelevance, and yet in the heat of the moment, the mind convinces us that everything is urgent, that every inconvenience is a crisis, that every offense must be taken. Personally, Buddhism teaches that much of our suffering comes not from events themselves, but from the seriousness with which we take them. A Zen master once said, "Life is a joke. The problem is most people don't know how to laugh." This is not to say that suffering is not real or that challenges should be ignored. Rather, it is a reminder that perspective is everything. The things we stress over, delays, rudeness, misunderstandings, are often fleeting. But the mind, if left unchecked, inflates them, making them seem more significant than they really are. The ability to step back, to recognize the absurdity in our own reactions, is one of the simplest ways to free ourselves from unnecessary frustration. Think about the last time you were truly upset about something. Maybe someone cut you off in traffic. Maybe a stranger was rude. Maybe a coworker made a careless remark. At the time it felt irritating, even offensive. But ask yourself, does it matter now? Did it change your life in any meaningful way, or did it disappear? Like all other temporary frustrations, the Buddhist approach to anger is not just about control, it is about lightness. The mind naturally wants to cling to irritation, to replay offenses, to justify resentment. But what if instead of reacting, you simply laughed? Not in a mocking way, not in bitterness, but in genuine amusement at the absurdity of the human experience. The ability to laugh at oneself, to recognize how often we take things too seriously, is a sign of wisdom, not carelessness. It shows that you understand that most things are temporary, that most conflicts are meaningless, that peace is found in letting go rather than holding on. Zen. Buddhism often uses humor as a teaching tool. A student once asked a master, "How do I achieve enlightenment?" The master laughed and said, "Have you eaten your rice? Then wash your bowl." The lesson: stop overcomplicating things. Stop searching for deep meaning in every frustration. Sometimes the answer is as simple as moving on. Even modern psychology supports this idea. Studies show that people who use humor as a coping mechanism experience lower stress levels, greater resilience, and an improved ability to navigate conflict. Laughter reduces cortisol, releases endorphins, and shifts the brain into a more relaxed state. In short, it is one of the simplest, most effective tools for diffusing anger. The next time you feel irritation creeping in, pause, ask yourself, will this matter in a year, a month, even a day? If not, smile, see the moment for what it is. Temporary, insignificant, not worth your peace. Life is unpredictable. People are imperfect and mistakes will always happen, but if you can laugh at it, if you can let go of the need to control every detail, you will find something. That anger can never offer lightness, and in that lightness peace becomes effortless. Practice gratitude. Anger and gratitude cannot coexist. The mind cannot hold both gratitude and anger at the same time. They are opposing forces. One expands awareness, the other narrows it. One brings lightness, the other heaviness. When gratitude is present, frustration has nowhere to take root. But most people, without realizing it, condition their minds to focus on what is missing, what is unfair, what should have been different. Buddhism teaches that shifting this perspective, cultivating gratitude instead of resentment, is one of the simplest ways to dissolve anger before it even arises. Consider how anger often begins. Someone is rude, and instead of appreciating the kindness you receive from others daily, your mind fixates on this one negative interaction. You encounter an obstacle, and rather than remembering how many times life has worked in your favor, you dwell on this single inconvenience. This is the nature of an untrained mind. It clings to what is wrong and overlooks what is right. But gratitude, when practiced intentionally, reverses this habit. It expands awareness beyond the immediate frustration, reminding you of the countless unnoticed blessings that exist alongside every difficulty. Buddhism teaches that gratitude is not just a reaction, it is a discipline. Monks, for example, begin each day with a simple reflection. I have woken up today. I have a body that moves, a mind that thinks, breath in my lungs. I lack nothing in this moment. They practice this daily, knowing that the mind left unchecked will always seek something to complain about. Always find reasons to be dissatisfied, but when gratitude is actively cultivated, anger loses its power. It cannot thrive in a mind that is consistently reminded of abundance. Even neuroscience confirms this truth. Studies show that practicing gratitude rewires the brain, increasing serotonin and dopamine, reducing stress hormones, and improving overall emotional regulation. People who keep a gratitude journal report lower levels of anger, increased patience, and a greater ability to handle conflict with calmness. Gratitude, in the most practical sense, is a mental habit that counteracts frustration. By shifting focus from what is wrong to what is right the next time anger arises, pause instead of feeding irritation, ask what is still good in this moment. Even in difficulty, there is always something. Your breath, your health, a lesson to be learned, a fleeting moment of peace between the chaos. Train your mind to find it, not because life is perfect, not because suffering does not exist, but because gratitude reminds you that even in imperfection, even in struggle, something beautiful remains, and when gratitude becomes your habit, peace becomes your default. Surrender to the flow, let life be as it is. There is a quiet kind of suffering that comes from resistance. The refusal to accept what is the constant need to control, the belief that life must unfold according to your expectations. This resistance creates frustration, turning small inconveniences into deep resentments, turning everyday challenges into personal battles. But Buddhism teaches that peace is not found in control. It is found in surrender, not surrender in the sense of giving up, but in the sense of allowing life to be as it is without unnecessary struggle. Think about how water moves through a river. It does not resist the rocks. It flows around them. It does not fight the current. It moves with it. When obstacles appear, it does not stop. It adapts, but the human mind, when untrained, does the opposite. It resists, argues, demands that things be different. A delayed flight becomes a source of stress. A rude remark ruins an entire day. A change in plans triggers frustration, all because the mind refuses to let things be. Buddhism teaches that suffering is not caused by events. It is caused by attachment to how we think things should be. The mind clings to expectations, and when reality does not align, anger arises. But what if instead of resisting, you simply let go? What if instead of demanding that life follow your script, you allowed it to unfold in its own way? The moment you stop fighting against reality, you stop suffering needlessly. Zen philosophy captures this idea perfectly. Let go or be dragged. Life will continue moving whether you resist it or not. The more you clinging, the more you struggle. The more you insist on control, the more exhausted you become. But when you surrender, not as an act of defeat, but as an act of wisdom, you move with life rather than against it. Even in Buddhism's core meditation practice, this principle is present when thoughts arise. The goal is not to push them away, but to observe them, to let them pass like clouds in the sky. This same approach applies to life when difficulties come. Instead of tightening your grip, loosen it. When things don't go as planned, instead of reacting with frustration, pause, breathe, accept, and in that acceptance find freedom. The world will never be completely predictable. People will never act exactly as you want. Plans will always change, but peace is not found in making life perfect. It is found in learning to be at ease with its imperfections. To surrender to the flow is not to lose control, but to gain something far greater. A mind that is free, unshaken, and at peace no matter what happens. Anger is not something that happens to you. It is something that arises within you. The world does not create your frustration. Your resistance does. The actions of others do not control your emotions, your minds. Attachment to expectations does. But Buddhism teaches that freedom from anger is always within reach. Not by suppressing emotions, but by understanding them, by seeing through their illusions, by choosing not to carry what does not serve you. Each lesson we explored is not just an idea, it is a practice. The more you recognize that everything is temporary, the less you clinging to passing frustrations. The more you observe your thoughts without attachment, the less power they hold over you. The more you let go of expectations, the fewer disappointments you will experience. The more compassion you cultivate, the harder it becomes for others to disturb your peace. The more you train your mind through meditation, the stronger and more resilient it becomes. The more you embrace humor, gratitude, and surrender, the lighter your existence feels true. Mastery of the mind is not about avoiding conflict or suppressing anger. It is about reaching a point where nothing needs to be avoided or suppressed, where the ups and downs of life come and go, yet your peace remains untouched. Buddhism does not promise that frustration will never arise, but it does offer something greater, the wisdom to see it for what it is. A passing cloud, a flickering flame, a moment that fades unless you hold on to it. So the choice is always yours. Carry anger or release it. Resist life or flow with it. React or observe. The path to peace is simple, but it is walked only by those who choose to take the first step. There's something about certain people, they walk into a room and without saying a word, they command attention. It's not because they're loud. It's not because they're showing off wealth or status. It's because they carry something deeper. An energy, a presence, a silent confidence that makes the world take notice. True wealth isn't about flashing designer brands, driving the most expensive car, or proving your worth to others. The wealthiest, most successful individuals move differently, speak differently, exist differently. They don't rush. They don't seek approval. They don't try to impress because they don't need to. Their presence alone is enough. This is what separates those who chase success from those who attract it effortlessly. It's not just about money. It's about how you carry yourself, how you value your time, how you project certainty without ever forcing it. In this episode, we're going to break down the 10 unspoken habits of truly wealthy individuals. The way they move, the way they handle pressure, the way they make people feel. Because wealth isn't just something you earn, it's something you embody. Let's begin one quiet luxury over loud brands. There's something interesting about the way truly wealthy people carry themselves. It's not in the clothes they wear or the cars they drive. It's not in the logos or the price tags. It's in something quieter, a presence, a way of existing in the world that doesn't demand attention yet somehow commands it. True wealth, real deep wealth, doesn't seek validation. It doesn't need to prove anything. The people who have it, the ones who have lived in its presence for years, don't feel the urge to announce it. They don't chase status through oversized logos, glittering displays, or loud declarations of success because they understand something most people don't. When you truly own something, you don't need to show it off. There's a reason why the wealthiest individuals in the world, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, even Steve Jobs, rarely indulged in flashy fashion statements. Buffett still lives in the same house he bought in the 1950s. Jobs wore a black turtleneck and jeans every day. Bezos, for all his billions, is often seen in a simple button-up and jeans. None of them needed a brand name to tell the world who they were. Their presence alone said everything. But this isn't just about clothing. It's a way of moving through life. The most powerful people don't just curate their wardrobes. They curate their energy, their spaces, their time. They don't clutter their lives with excess, not in their possessions, not in their words. They don't feel silence just to be heard. They don't make choices to impress others. Instead, they seek what is lasting, meaningful, and true. Why is it that the loudest person in the room is rarely the most respected? Why do those who try the hardest to prove themselves often seem the most insecure? Maybe it's because true confidence, like true wealth, is felt, not advertised. It's not in the things you own. It's in how you carry yourself, in how little you need external validation to know your own worth. Think about this for a moment. If no one were watching, if there was no one to impress, would you still make the same choices? Would you still buy the same things? Would you still want what you want? The world will always have people who measure success by noise, by the size of their house, the car they drive, the labels on their clothes. But the ones who move with quiet luxury, they don't chase attention. They let the world notice on its own, because true wealth isn't loud. It never has to be too. Move unhurried. Speak deliberately. There's something fascinating about the way certain people move through the world. They never seem rushed, never seem desperate to fill the silence. Their presence alone carries weight, not because they demand attention, but because they don't need to. You can tell a lot about someone by the way they walk into a room. Some people rush in, eager to be seen, their energy scattered. Others move slowly, deliberately, with a quiet confidence that doesn't beg for validation. It's not arrogance, it's not superiority. It's something simpler. Control over their body, over their emotions, over their need to prove anything at all. The truly wealthy, the ones who have built something real, carry themselves differently. They don't fidget. They don't rush their words or talk over people. They pause before they speak. They let silence do some of the work for them, and that silence, it's powerful. It forces people to listen. It makes every word mean more. There's a reason why the most respected leaders in history, figures like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, even historical icons like Marcus Aurelius, spoke slowly, deliberately. They knew that speed doesn't equal intelligence and volume doesn't equal power. In fact, the people who speak the fastest, who rush to get their words out, often come across as uncertain, because certainty isn't in how much you say. It's in how little you need to say. Think about this for a moment. Have you ever noticed that the loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful? That the ones who feel the need to constantly explain themselves often seem the least in control? The wealthiest, most influential individuals don't rush to fill the silence. They are comfortable with stillness, comfortable with letting things unfold at their own pace. And this applies to more than just speech, the way you move, your posture, your gestures, your ability to remain calm under pressure. Communicate something before you even open your mouth. Someone who moves with ease, with patience, with self-assurance, naturally commands respect. It's an unspoken signal. I am in control. I am not here to impress you. I am here because I belong. So how do you cultivate this energy? Start by slowing down. Resist the urge to rush your words. When someone asks you a question, take a pause before answering. Let your words carry weight rather than just filling space. When you walk into a room, do it with awareness, not urgency. Move as if you have nowhere to be, but exactly where you are. Because the most powerful people don't move faster. They move with purpose. They don't talk more. They talk when it matters. And when you learn to do the same, you won't need to demand attention. You will simply attract it. 3. Make others feel instantly valued. There's something unforgettable about people who make you feel seen, not just acknowledged, not just heard, but truly noticed, as if for a moment you are the only person in the room. This is a kind of wealth that goes beyond money, a kind of influence that has nothing to do with power, yet somehow attracts it effortlessly. Think about the last time someone made you feel important. Maybe they remembered a small detail about your life. Maybe they listened, not just waiting for their turn to speak, but actually absorbing what you were saying. Maybe they looked you in the eye, fully present, making you feel as if what you said mattered. These are small things, subtle things, and yet they're the foundation of deep, lasting influence. The wealthiest, most powerful individuals understand this instinctively. They know that success isn't just about intelligence or ambition, it's about relationships. And the people who build the strongest relationships aren't the ones who talk the most or impress the hardest. They are the ones who make others feel significant. There's a reason why some of the most legendary business figures, people like Warren Buffett and Richard Branson, are known for their ability to connect, not through status, not through money, but through presence. When they speak with someone, they aren't distracted. They aren't glancing at their phone or scanning the room for someone. More important, they give their full attention, and that is rare, because in a world that moves fast, where everyone is fighting to be heard, where distractions are endless, being fully present is a superpower. This goes beyond business. It applies to friendships, relationships, even passing interactions with strangers. The people who leave a mark on us aren't necessarily the smartest, the wealthiest, or the most successful. They are the ones who made us feel valued, the ones who looked at us, and without saying a word, communicated, "I see you. I respect you, you matter." And that energy, it attracts everything. Opportunities, loyalty, admiration, without ever having to ask for it. So how do you cultivate this kind of presence? Start with the simplest thing: listen. Not just to respond, but to understand when someone speaks, be fully there. Notice the details. Remember the things they say. Make people feel like their words aren't just background noise in your life, but something worth holding on to. Another key, make eye contact. It sounds small, but in a world where attention is constantly divided, actually looking at someone fully without distraction communicates something powerful. I am here with you right now, and most importantly, drop the need to impress. The people who are the most magnetic aren't the ones trying to prove their worth. They are the ones who, instead of making everything about themselves, turn their attention outward. They don't chase validation. They give it, because when you master this, when you can walk into any room and make the people in it feel important, you don't just gain wealth, you become someone people never forget. 4. Quality over quantity in every aspect of life. There's a moment in life when you realize that more isn't always better. That filling your world with excess, whether it's possessions, relationships, or commitments, doesn't create happiness. It creates noise. The wealthiest, most successful individuals have mastered something. Most people overlook curation. They don't chase volume. They chase value. Think about the way truly wealthy people live. Their homes aren't cluttered with meaningless things. Their wardrobes aren't overflowing with clothes they never wear. Their schedules aren't packed with unnecessary meetings. Instead, they select, they refine, they choose fewer but better. Every decision is intentional. This philosophy isn't just about material things. It extends to every aspect of life. The truly wealthy don't surround themselves with people who drain their energy. They don't waste time on shallow connections. They invest in deep, meaningful relationships. They aren't interested in having the most friends. They're interested in having the right friends, the kind who challenge them, support them, and elevate their thinking. The same applies to time. Wealthy individuals don't fill their days with endless tasks just to feel productive. They focus on what truly moves the needle. They understand that saying no is just as important as saying yes. In fact, the more successful someone becomes, the more selective they are with their time, because time, unlike money, is something you can never get back. But perhaps the most profound application of this principle is in the mind. Look at the way truly successful people think. They don't let their minds be cluttered with distractions, gossip, or unnecessary worries. They focus on clarity. They seek knowledge that deepens their understanding rather than just entertains them. They don't consume everything, they consume wisely. This idea, choosing quality over quantity, goes against the way most of the world operates. Society encourages accumulation, more money, more clothes, more followers, more commitments. The illusion is that if you just have more, you will feel fulfilled. But the truth is, excess doesn't create abundance, it creates overwhelm. So how do you adopt this mindset? Start by simplifying. Look at the areas of your life where you are holding on to too much things, relationships, obligations, and ask yourself, does this add value? Or is it just taking up space in your possessions? Focus on craftsmanship over trendiness. Choose things that last, things that truly serve you in your relationships. Prioritize depth over breadth. Surround yourself with people who inspire and challenge you in your time. Eliminate the unnecessary, protect your schedule like you would. Protect your wealth and your mindset. Filter what you consume. Read things that expand your thinking, not just entertain you. Because wealth, real wealth, isn't about owning everything. It's about owning only what truly matters. When you stop chasing quantity and start curating quality, everything changes. Life becomes lighter, sharper, more intentional. And the irony, when you focus on less, you actually gain more. 6. Value time more than material things. There is one resource more valuable than money, more scarce than opportunity, more irreplaceable than anything. You can own time yet. Most people treat it as if it's unlimited, wasting it on distractions, meaningless conversations, or chasing material possessions that in the grand scheme of things add nothing to their lives. Truly wealthy individuals, those who have built lasting success, understand something that most people don't. Money is replaceable. Time is not. You can lose money and earn it back. You can make a bad investment and recover, but time, once it's gone forever. This is why the truly successful protect their time with the same intensity that others protect their money. They are selective about what they commit to. They don't allow their schedules to be hijacked by trivial tasks or energy-draining people. They don't fill their days just to feel busy. They focus on impact. Every hour is accounted for, not in a rigid way, but in a way that ensures they are spending time on what truly matters. Now contrast this with the way most people operate. They check their phones first thing in the morning, losing 30 minutes to meaningless scrolling. They say yes to meetings. That could have been an email. They fill their free time with consumption, watching, scrolling, reacting, rather than creating, building, or growing. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is often not intelligence, not background, not even luck. It's how they use their time. Consider someone like Elon Musk. He runs multiple billion-dollar companies, yet he still makes time to innovate, learn, and work on long-term visions. How? By guarding his time ruthlessly. He doesn't waste it on unnecessary distractions. He doesn't let his calendar get filled with things that don't push his vision forward. He treats his time as his most valuable asset because it is. This mindset applies to every area of life. Wealthy individuals don't just prioritize their work time. They protect their personal time, their thinking time, their moments of rest and reflection, because they know that clarity doesn't come from constant action. It comes from giving yourself space to think. So how do you adopt this principle? Start by auditing your time. Ask yourself, where is my time actually going? Am I spending it on things that bring long-term value or just short-term gratification? If I lost an hour every day to distractions, what could I have done with that time? Instead, then become intentional. Start treating time the way you treat money, with awareness, purpose, and discipline. Eliminate the unnecessary, say no to things that don't align with your goals. Create space for what actually moves your life forward. Because at the end of the day, wealth isn't just about how much money you have, it's about how much time you truly own. And those who understand this, they don't just make money, they make life work for them. 6. Value time more than material things. There is one resource more valuable than money, more scarce than opportunity, more irreplaceable than anything. You can own time yet. Most people treat it as if it's unlimited, wasting it on distractions, meaningless conversations, or chasing material possessions that in the grand scheme of things add nothing to their lives. Truly wealthy individuals, those who have built lasting success, understand something that most people don't. Money is replaceable. Time is not. You can lose money and earn it back. You can make a bad investment and recover, but time, once it's gone forever. This is why the truly successful protect their time with the same intensity that others protect their money. They are selective about what they commit to. They don't allow their schedules to be hijacked by trivial tasks or energy-draining people. They don't fill their days just to feel busy. They focus on impact. Every hour is accounted for, not in a rigid way, but in a way that ensures they are spending time on what truly matters. Now contrast this with the way most people operate. They check their phones first thing in the morning, losing 30 minutes to meaningless scrolling. They say yes to meetings. That could have been an email. They fill their free time with consumption, watching, scrolling, reacting, rather than creating, building, or growing. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is often not intelligence, not background, not even luck. It's how they use their time. Consider someone like Elon Musk. He runs multiple billion-dollar companies, yet he still makes time to innovate, learn, and work on long-term visions. How? By guarding his time ruthlessly. He doesn't waste it on unnecessary distractions. He doesn't let his calendar get filled with things that don't push his vision forward. He treats his time as his most valuable asset because it is. This mindset applies to every area of life. Wealthy individuals don't just prioritize their work time. They protect their personal time, their thinking time, their moments of rest and reflection, because they know that clarity doesn't come from constant action. It comes from giving yourself space to think. So how do you adopt this principle? Start by auditing your time. Ask yourself, where is my time actually going? Am I spending it on things that bring long-term value or just short-term gratification? If I lost an hour every day to distractions, what could I have done with that time? Instead, then become intentional. Start treating time the way you treat money, with awareness, purpose, and discipline. Eliminate the unnecessary, say no to things that don't align with your goals. Create space for what actually moves your life forward. Because at the end of the day, wealth isn't just about how much money you have, it's about how much time you truly own. And those who understand this, they don't just make money, they make life work for them. 7. Carry natural authority without force. There's a difference between commanding respect and demanding it. Some people try to impose authority through volume, intimidation, or status symbols, but the truly influential, they don't need to force anything. Their presence alone is enough. They carry authority naturally without ever needing to announce it. Think about the most respected leaders in history, figures like Nelson Mandela, Marcus Aurelius, or even modern icons like Warren Buffett. They didn't need to prove their power. They didn't walk into a room demanding attention, yet when they spoke, people listened. Why? Because their authority wasn't based on dominance. It was based on presence, wisdom, and control. True influence isn't about overpowering others. It's about being so centered in yourself that people can't help but take notice. The wealthiest and most successful individuals exude a quiet confidence that doesn't seek validation. They don't interrupt. They don't try to be the loudest voice in the room. Instead, they listen. They observe. And when they do speak, their words carry weight, not because they are many, but because they are measured, deliberate, and thoughtful. But this kind of presence isn't just about speech. It's about the way you move, how you hold yourself, how you react to situations. Someone who is constantly fidgeting, speaking too fast, or trying too hard to impress signals uncertainty. In contrast, someone who stands tall, speaks with intention, and doesn't rush to fill the silence, exudes confidence. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to have an unshakable calm about them, no matter what's happening around them? Chaos, stress, pressure. They remain composed. That calmness, that's authority. It's the kind of energy that makes people instinctively trust you, respect you, and want to follow your lead. But here's the key. Real authority isn't something you project. It's something you embody. It's not about pretending to be powerful. It's about becoming the kind of person who naturally commands respect. So how do you cultivate this? First, control your emotions. The most powerful people don't react impulsively. They pause, they think, they respond with clarity, not emotion. This alone sets them apart. Second, speak less, but with more purpose. Don't talk just to fill space. When you do speak, say things that matter. Let your words be precise, meaningful, and intentional. And third, be completely comfortable with silence. Weak people try to dominate conversations to prove their importance. Strong people let silence do the work for them, because true authority doesn't come from force, it comes from presence. And when you master this, you won't need to chase influence. It'll come to you naturally. 8. Show genuine interest in others. There's something rare about people who truly listen, not the kind of listening where someone nods while waiting for their turn to speak, but real presence. The kind where you feel like for a moment you are the most important person in the world. That kind of attention is magnetic, and it's no coincidence that the wealthiest, most powerful individuals have mastered it. Success isn't built in isolation. It's built on connections, real deep, meaningful connections, and the people who create the strongest relationships aren't the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who make others feel heard. Think about the most charismatic people you've ever met. What made them stand out? Was it their intelligence, their achievements? Maybe, but more often than not, it was the way they made you feel. They weren't just waiting for their turn to talk. They weren't distracted checking their phone or scanning the room. They were fully present, fully engaged, and genuinely curious. People like Warren Buffett, Richard Branson, and even historical figures like Abraham Lincoln had this quality. They understood that people don't remember what you say as much as they remember how you made them feel. And making someone feel valued, truly valued, is a rare skill. But why does this matter? Because success isn't just about talent or strategy. It's about influence, and the fastest way to influence someone, make them feel important, make them feel seen. This isn't about manipulation. It's not about pretending to care so you can get something in return. It's about developing a genuine curiosity about people, asking good questions, noticing details, remembering what matters to them. Because in a world where everyone is rushing, where attention is fragmented, where most conversations are surface level, being fully present is a superpower. So how do you practice this? Start small. The next time you talk to someone, resist the urge to think about what you'll say next. Just listen. Instead of responding with your own story, ask them more about theirs. Notice something about them, something small, something specific. People don't forget those who truly notice them. When you do this, something interesting happens. People start gravitating toward you. They trust you more. They want to be around you. They remember you, not because you impressed them, but because you made them feel seen in a way few people ever do. And that is real wealth, because at the end of the day, money comes and goes. But the ability to connect, to build relationships that matter, that will make you unforgettable. 9. Handle pressure with graceful ease. There's a moment in every challenge where pressure builds, when the stakes rise, when things don't go as planned, when uncertainty takes over. Most people react instinctively. They panic, they stress, they let their emotions take control, but the truly powerful, they remain steady. There's something magnetic about people who handle pressure with ease. The ones who don't get flustered, who don't overreact, who stay composed, even when everything around them is chaotic. It's not that they don't feel stress, it's that they've mastered the art of control. This kind of emotional stability is one of the most valuable assets in life. It's what separates the people who survive from the people who thrive, and it's no coincidence that the wealthiest and most successful individuals have this skill. They understand that in any high-stakes situation, the calmest person in the room is usually the one who wins. Think about someone like Warren Buffett, a man who has seen markets crash, entire industries collapse, and global recessions unfold. Yet through it all, he remains calm, calculated, and unfazed. Why? Because he knows that panic is expensive emotionally, financially, professionally. The people who make decisions out of fear often make the worst ones. This principle applies to more than just business. Look at the world's greatest athletes, the best negotiators, the most effective leaders. They all have one thing in common: composure under pressure. They don't let emotions dictate their actions. They slow down when others speed up. They focus when others spiral. And because of that, they remain in control, not just of the situation, but of themselves. But here's the truth: staying calm under pressure isn't a natural talent. It's a trained skill. It comes from practice, from learning how to slow your mind down when everything around you is speeding up, from understanding that most problems feel bigger in the moment than they actually are. So how do you build this kind of presence? Start by changing your response to stress. The next time you feel tension rising, instead of reacting instantly, pause. Take a breath. Give yourself a moment before you act. When faced with uncertainty, ask yourself, is this problem as big as it feels right now? Will it still matter a week from now, a month? Perspective reduces panic. Train yourself to lower your voice instead of raising it. People instinctively trust those who stay composed under pressure. Over time, this becomes second nature. You stop reacting impulsively. You start making better decisions, not because you don't feel stress, but because you've learned how to navigate it without losing yourself. And that is what separates those who rise from those who break, because in the moments when everything is on the line, the person who stays calm is always the one who wins. 10. Never feel the need to prove their worth. There's a quiet strength in people who don't seek validation. They don't try to impress. They don't chase approval. They don't feel the need to prove their worth because they already know it. The truly wealthy, the ones who carry real influence, move through life with a sense of inner certainty. They don't talk about how powerful they are. They don't list their accomplishments to gain respect. Their actions speak for them. Their presence alone tells you everything you need to know, but most people do the opposite. They seek external validation at every turn, whether through expensive possessions, social media, or constantly reminding others of their achievements. They believe that if they can just be seen as successful, they will finally feel successful. But here's the problem: if your worth depends on external validation, it's never truly yours. People who try to prove themselves often come across as insecure. They over-explain, they exaggerate, they try too hard. And ironically, the more you try to convince others of your worth, the less they actually believe it, because true confidence, real unshakable confidence, doesn't need an audience. It just is. Think about the most respected figures in history. Did Einstein go around reminding people he was a genius? Did Bruce Lee boast about being one of the greatest martial artists of all time? Did Warren Buffett need to flash his wealth to be recognized as one of the world's greatest investors? Because they didn't need to. Their work, their discipline, their presence spoke for itself. There's an undeniable power in not needing to prove anything. It means you are centered within yourself. It means your confidence doesn't depend on external approval. It means you don't waste energy trying to convince others. You simply exist as proof. So how do you embody this? Start by detaching from external validation. Stop explaining yourself unnecessarily. You don't owe people a justification for every decision you make. Let your actions speak louder than your words, instead of telling people how great you are. Be great. Learn to be comfortable in silence. The most powerful people in the room are often the ones who say the least, because at the end of the day, the people who matter don't need to be convinced, and the people who need convincing, they don't really matter. When you no longer feel the need to prove your worth, something incredible happens. You become someone who is simply undeniable. There is a kind of wealth that goes beyond money, a presence, a way of existing in the world that doesn't need to be announced, yet is impossible to ignore. The wealthiest, most powerful individuals don't rush. They don't seek validation. They don't prove themselves to anyone because they don't need to. Their actions, their choices, and the way they move through life say everything. This isn't something you can fake. It isn't about buying expensive things or mimicking confidence. It's about becoming the kind of person who naturally commands respect through emotional stability, presence, and a deep understanding of what truly matters. Because wealth isn't about how much you own, it's about how much control you have over yourself, over your time, over your emotions, over the way you carry yourself in the world. Most people chase status. They seek approval, they move frantically, always trying to prove something. But the ones who are truly wealthy, the ones who attract success, effortlessly move differently. They walk with quiet certainty. They value substance over noise, and because they don't need to impress anyone, the world takes notice anyway. So ask yourself, am I moving through life with intention, or am I still trying to prove my worth? Because the day you stop chasing validation is the day you start attracting everything you once pursued, and that is real wealth. You'll start to feel more in control, more at peace, and more aligned with your true priorities. So today, take a moment to evaluate your current boundaries. Are there areas of your life where you need to say no? More often, are you protecting your energy or constantly giving it away to others? Start small. Set one boundary today and notice how it feels. The more you practice setting healthy boundaries, the more you'll realize how powerful they are in creating the peace and calm you've been seeking. You've just learned 12 powerful ways to master inner calm, each designed to help you regain control of your peace and create a life that feels balanced, fulfilling, and true to who you are. But the real work begins now, applying these principles to your life one step at a time. It's not enough to simply learn these strategies. You must embody them, make them a part of your daily routine, and consistently choose peace over chaos. As we've discussed, inner calm doesn't come from external circumstances. It comes from within. It's the result of letting go of what doesn't serve you, learning to embrace the present moment, and practicing the art of self-compassion. It's about understanding that peace is not something you find in the future. It's something you create right now in each decision you make. True freedom comes when you release the weight of external expectations. Silence your inner critic and choose to live authentically without needing constant validation. It comes when you practice acceptance, when you simplify your life, and when you set healthy boundaries to protect your energy. When you cultivate gratitude and embrace the present, you start to experience the peace that comes with living a life aligned with your deepest values. Remember, these aren't just abstract ideas. They are practical tools you can apply today. Don't wait for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment is now. The peace you are seeking is within your reach, and it starts with small, intentional changes. As you move forward, take one step at a time. Implement these practices in your life and watch how they transform your mindset, your relationships, and your overall well-being. Inner peace is not a destination, it's a lifelong journey. So embrace it, nurture it, and know that each choice you make is bringing you closer to the calm and clarity you deserve. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps spread the message of Stoicism and self-improvement, and we are committed to continuing this journey together. So how does one regain control? The answer is deliberate awareness. Pause before acting. When an emotion is strong, wait. Let logic have a chance to speak before making a decision. Train the brain to focus on long-term consequences. Ask, will this matter a week from now? A year from now? Create systems that override impulse. If logic says you need to exercise, but emotions want comfort, remove the need for debate. Set the gym clothes out to the night before. Make the first step automatic. The Stoics did not believe in suppressing emotion. They believed in mastering it. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to act based on principle, not passing moods. Seneca observed his emotions before reacting, ensuring that his decisions served his future, not just his present. Epictetus saw that true strength lies not in controlling the world, but in controlling oneself. The mind will always have two voices, one driven by fleeting emotion, the other by reason. The question is, who are you allowing to make your decisions? The danger of big goals, why they feel impossible to achieve. Ambition fuels progress, but when a goal feels too large, too distant, or too overwhelming, the mind resists. The bigger the vision, the heavier the weight of expectation. A person looks at their dream, a career change, writing a book, mastering a skill, and instead of feeling inspired, they feel stuck. It does not process. I want to become financially independent the same way it processes. I need to save $10 today. It does not handle, I want to be in the best shape of my life, the same way it handles. I will do 20 minutes of exercise right now. The brain is designed to focus on immediate, tangible actions. What can be done now, not vague, distant ambitions. This is why so many people set big goals yet fail to act. The vision is clear, but the process is undefined, and when the path is unclear, procrastination takes over. Marcus Aurelius understood that great things are built piece by piece. He reminded himself not to focus on the enormity of a task, but on the smallest action available in the moment. Do what is in front of you. He wrote, he did not allow himself to be overwhelmed by the weight of responsibility. Instead, he approached each day with a practical mindset, knowing that action, no matter how small, is always within reach. Seneca saw that people often defeat themselves before they begin. They imagine a goal in its final form, and feeling unworthy or incapable, they hesitate. He believed that progress is made not by waiting for the confidence to begin, but by beginning and allowing confidence to follow. He taught that rather than focusing on how much remains to be done, one should focus on what can be done now. While we wait for life, life passes. Action is the cure for hesitation. Epictetus took a different perspective. He believed that those who become overwhelmed by large goals do so because they are too attached to the outcome rather than the process. He saw that fulfillment is not in achieving a final result, but in the daily discipline of effort. The weight of a big goal disappears when one stops obsessing over when it will be completed and instead focuses on what can be done today. He advised his students to treat every task as if it were the only task, to give full attention to what was within their control and let the long-term results take care of themselves. Modern psychology confirms this ancient wisdom. Studies show that the brain struggles with long-term rewards. It prioritizes what is immediate over what is important. This is why the concept of small wins is so powerful. Each small accomplishment, no matter how minor, builds momentum, triggering the brain's reward system and reinforcing progress. Success is not a single moment of achievement. It is the accumulation of daily effort. So how does one overcome the paralysis of big goals? Break them down. Instead of saying, I need to write a book, say, I will write 300 words today. Focus on today's action, not the end result. Thinking too far ahead creates anxiety. The only step that matters is the next one. Track small wins. Progress must be seen to be felt. Keep a record of every completed step, no matter how small. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to focus only on the task at hand. Seneca believed that action was the cure for hesitation, and Epictetus saw discipline as the key to progress. The lesson is clear. Big goals are only intimidating when viewed as a whole, but every mountain is climbed step by step. The challenge is not whether you can achieve something great. It is whether you can begin and then begin again until what once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. The brain's time miscalculation, why you think you have more time than you do. Time feels abundant until it isn't. The mind plays a dangerous trick, convincing you that there is always more of it. I will start tomorrow. I'll have time later next week. I'll be more focused. And so plans are postponed. Important. Work is delayed and life moves forward while action remains stuck in waiting. The brain creates the illusion that time is infinite, yet experience proves otherwise. Deadlines arrive faster than expected. Opportunities slip away unnoticed. The future that once seemed distant becomes the present, and suddenly time is no longer on your side. This miscalculation is deeply wired into human psychology. The mind struggles to comprehend the passage of time accurately. It underestimates how quickly the future becomes the present and overestimates how much can be done later. This is why people assume they can finish a project in an unrealistic time frame, why they think they will feel ready in the future, why they delay important tasks, believing there will be a better moment to begin, but time does not wait, and the longer one assumes it is available, the more of it is lost. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that procrastination is a form of self-deception. He saw that those who assume they have unlimited time end up wasting the days they do have. He wrote, you could be good today, but instead you choose tomorrow. He understood that hesitation does not protect opportunity. It erodes it. The only time that can be controlled is now. To wait for a better moment is to assume life will pause for you. It won't. Seneca was even more direct, warning that people act as if life is endless, when in reality most of it is wasted. He observed that people fear losing money, property, or status, yet they throw away time, the one resource that cannot be replaced. We are not given a short life, but we make it short by wasting it. His philosophy was clear. If something is important, it must be done now. If a goal matters, it must be pursued today. To assume there will always be more time is to gamble with the most finite resource of all. Epictetus approached time from a different angle. He did not see procrastination as merely a loss of productivity, but as a failure to live fully. He taught that every moment is an opportunity to act, to grow, to shape one's future. To delay is not just to waste time, it is to postpone life itself. He encouraged his students to stop asking whether they were ready, and instead ask, what is stopping me from acting right now? He knew that hesitation was not a result of poor timing, but a fear. The fear of imperfection, the fear of discomfort, the fear of failure. But life doesn't pause for hesitation. Modern psychology confirms this ancient wisdom. Studies show that people suffer from time discounting, a cognitive bias that makes the future feel abstract and distant. This is why deadlines feel far away until suddenly they are urgent. It is why people assume they will have more discipline, more motivation, more time later. Yet when later arrives the same, excuses remain. The solution is not to wait for time to feel urgent, but to treat every moment as if it already is. So how does one break free from this illusion of time abundance? Set shorter deadlines. The brain responds to urgency. Give yourself artificial constraints. What would take months can often be done in weeks when approached with intensity. Use the compressed time technique. Ask yourself, if I only had half the time to complete this, what would I do differently? This forces clarity, removing procrastination disguised as preparation. Stop assuming later will be easier. It won't. The future version of you will have the same distractions, the same doubts, the same challenges. The only way to change outcomes is to change action now. Marcus Aurelius refused to wait for the right moment to act. Seneca saw procrastination as a theft of life, and Epictetus understood that hesitation is a choice. The lesson is clear. There is no later, no perfect moment, no ideal future. The only time to act is now, and if you do not take control of your time, time will take control of you. The power of environment, how to remove procrastination triggers. Most people assume that willpower is the key to productivity. That success is simply a matter of self-discipline and internal motivation. But what if the real battle is not inside the mind, but in the world around you? Environment shapes behavior more than willpower ever could. A person surrounded by distractions will struggle to focus no matter how determined they are. A workspace cluttered with interruptions will override even the strongest work ethic. The truth is, procrastination is often not a personal failure, but a reflection of an unoptimized environment. The mind is constantly reacting to cues, subtle signals in the surroundings that either push it toward action or pull it toward distraction. A phone within arm's reach, a social media tab left open, a couch more inviting than a workspace. All of these make procrastination the default choice. People don't check their phones 100 times a day because they intend to waste time. They do it because the phone is there, constantly triggering an automatic response. The easier a distraction is to access, the harder it is to resist. Marcus Aurelius understood that focus requires deliberate effort, not just internal discipline, but external adjustments. He structured his life in a way that minimized distractions, ensuring that his surroundings supported his ability to think, reflect, and act. He reminded himself that the mind, when left exposed to external noise, will naturally drift. His solution was not to fight distraction, but to remove the sources of it. Seneca, in his reflections on time management, warned against environments that quietly steal attention. He observed that most people do not realize how much of their time is lost until it is already gone.